Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. I may do an intro. I don't know, put it before or after this. I don't know what's going to happen. Today is um, February 26th, Wednesday, and I turned on the news for lunch, and this was on. Elon Musk was standing there drinking a cup of tea. We'll get into this. Trump is meeting with all his ghoulish cabinet people.
Very much. We appreciate you being here, and we've put together a great cabinet. And,
It's the greatest cabinet in the history of cabinets.
we've had tremendous success. We've been given a lot of credit for having a very successful first month.
Yeah, everyone's been telling you you're doing awesome. There's not one person in America is upset or concerned about what you guys are doing.
And we want to make that many months and years, actually.
Many months, some might even say some years of doing incredible work with my incredible cabinet.
We're going to have many good months, and we're going to have many good years, I hope, and we're going to solve a lot of problems. We're doing very well with Russia, Ukraine. President Zelensky is going to be coming on Friday. That's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement, which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did.
Okay, let's check in with President Zelensky here. Oh yeah, there it is. Woo! Like, how could that be your fucking leader? How could that be your fucking leader? Look at him go. Look at him fucking jiggle. Look at that motherfucker jiggle. Look at his vagina. Watch his vagina jiggle. Jesus Christ. How could that be your leader? I mean, Joe Biden was senile, had Parkinson's, and Trump is his own nightmare. But how can this be your fucking leader? I mean, how is this funny? Like, how is this entertainment? Watching a guy stand up and jiggle. This is like some drunk shit that somebody does at a wedding or something, and everyone's like grossed out. Like, how is this guy on stage and considered a star? Like, holy shit. Yeah, come meet with Trump. Do this. Do your little jiggle, right? Like, how can you be taken seriously after that? Like, the humiliation of the thing, right? Like, if like you did something, got drunk and you did something like this, and it made it on the frickin', around the internet, just in your small social circle in your town or whatever, you jiggling like that, your mangina jiggling like the whole fucking. And so, like, how can this be it? How could that guy be somebody who's, in a pivotal country right now that's on the cusp of starting World War III, and that's what you got. There you go. You bring it, bro. So that's your guy right there.
Putting it together, really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things. And as you know, we're in for probably $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion.
So the French guy, remember that yesterday when he corrected you, then he grabbed your knee? Let's take a look at him grabbing your knee here. You just remember he corrected you, said, no, that's not true. And then you told that epic story about how you came to France and the guy started doing his French deal, as you called it, speaking in French. You didn't understand a word. And that you didn't, you were getting screwed over, and he started playing grab ass with each other. And then he rubbed your inner thigh and your knee. Remember that? Let's show you that that meme here.
Of building this lasting peace.
I just want to tell you a little story. So we were at the Eiffel Tower having dinner with your wonderful wife and with my wonderful wife, and we came out and he started speaking the French deal. And we didn't have an interpreter, and he was going on and on and on, and I was just nodding, yes, yes, yes. And he really sold me out, because I got back the next day and I read the papers. I said, that's not what we said. He's a smart customer, I will tell you that. Sure.
So this is the most fucked up thing that happened. Look, him grabbing his knee here, right? Grabbing Trump's frickin' knee. This is the thing that's most disturbing, right?
And that's a big difference. So we're in for probably 3 times as much, and yet it's very important to everybody, but Europe's very close. We have a big ocean separating us, so it's very important for Europe.
Okay, we've heard all this shit before.
And they hopefully will step up and do maybe more than they're doing, and maybe a lot more. The previous administration put us in a very bad position, but we've been able to make a deal.
Okay, we heard all that shit. Let's move forward here. Who's this guy coming in? Some guy standing behind him here.
Before we begin the cabinet, I'd like to have Scott and a couple of people say a few things, but most importantly, where are you? This is a gentleman who's going places, the head of HUD, and he's going to say, you all know him, and you're going to say grace, and then we'll have our meeting, right? Thank you very much.
Let's go back here a second here. Look at Christy Nome here.
Grace, and then we'll
Look at. Did somebody say grace? And so
have our meeting, right? Thank you very much.
Well, go ahead, Bo.
Mr. President, let's pray. Father, we thank you for this awesome privilege.
You guys having a meal? Because if you're not having a meal, and I encourage prayer, not not shitting on praying. I don't care what it is, any form of prayer. I mean, some are better than others, but just like it's given the devil worship and all the shit that's going on there in the world, anything's better than nothing. But you said grace, and this isn't grace because you're not eating. I mean, Trump is not up on his Christianity.
Father, to be in your presence. God, thank you that you've allowed us to see this day. The Bible says that your mercies are new every morning. And Father God, we give you the glory and
He's opening his eyes. Trump stopped praying too long. Too long, bro. Hurry up.
honor. Thank you, God, for President Trump, Father, for appointing us. Father God, thank you for anointing us to do this job. Father, we pray you will give the president, the vice president wisdom, Father God, as they lead. Father, I pray for all of my
Come
colleagues
on, Father God. Can you pray that Trump is able to keep his eyes closed?
that are here around the table and in this room. Lord God, we pray that we would lead with a righteous clarity. Father God, that as we serve the people of this country in every prospective agency, every job that we have, Father, we would humble ourselves before you and we would lead in the manner that you've called us to lead and to serve. Father, the Bible says that blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Well, Father, we today honor you, and in your rightful place, Father, thank you for giving us this opportunity to restore faith in this country and be a blessing to the people of America. And Lord God, today in our meeting, we pray that you will be glorified.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong about the prayer being a good thing because, you can't justify your bullshit policies and what you're doing to Gaza Strip and things. Like doing things in the name of God. I mean, prayer is a step in the right direction. I mean, Trump's not capable of prayer and all these other people pretend to be Christians. But, they're not doing a good job, of being Christians.
In our conversation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Boom.
Scott, that was a very good job you did.
Good job. Well, he's the best one at praying. You never had such a good prayer.
You've done that before, haven't you? So Scott Turner's a terrific young guy. He's heading up HUD, and he's going to make us all very proud, right?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Maybe so you're going to turn it into like your Trump slum houses or...
In just over 1 month, illegal border crossings have plummeted by numbers that nobody's actually ever seen before.
No one's seen that many numbers. Like, they're just down so much. Okay, so Elon Musk comes in here. Okay, let's get right before that. Here we go.
Group of people in this country that have such admiration for what we're doing. I got elected with a tremendous vote, winning every swing state, winning the popular vote, winning the counties by thousands of counties. I think it was...
Counties. I want some fucking counties. I won the popular vote in some counties. There's some counties voted for me, whole counties.
2,800 to 500. 2,800 counties to 500 counties. Think of that.
I mean, I won. Kamala got like almost no counties. Like Kamala was like almost countyless.
And so we have a mandate to do this, and this is part of the reason I got elected. I got elected based on taxes and based on many things in the border, but also based on balancing budgets and getting our country back into shape, and this is a big part of it. So Elon, if you could get up and explain where you are, how you're doing, and how much we're cutting, and it's an honor to have you. He's been a tremendously successful guy. He's really working so hard, and he's got businesses.
He's working so hard. He's got businesses and shit. He's got like fucking satellites and fucking electric cars and shit that I don't really like, but he's got them.
To run, and in many ways they say, how do you do this? And it's he's sacrificing a lot, and getting a lot of praise, I'll tell you, but he's also getting hit, and we would expect that, and that's the way it works. So I'd like to have Elon Musk please say a few words.
Well,
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually just call myself a humble tech support here because this is actually, as crazy as it sounds, that is.
Look at this sad sack motherfucker here, and Vince McMahon's wife. Like, it's just a motley crew of people. Tulsi Gabbard over here, freaking little Marco Rubio looking freaking beat like a beat man. Like, he's definitely a beat man. This guy.
Almost a literal description of the work that the Doge team is doing is helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems are
Look at these two people looking at him like with admiration. Did he pay them? He's got his hand signal here.
extremely old. They don't communicate. There are a lot of mistakes in the systems. The software doesn't work. So we are actually tech support. It's ironic, but it's true.
It's ironic, but it's true. Look at his. He was wearing a MAGA hat. He's such a strange guy.
The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rate.
Okay, so that's you're not going to do it. Like the most they're going to trim off here. They're hoping to trim off $1 trillion, which would be half of the deficit now. But they're going to increase spending on other things. You know, they're going to cut the things that regulate their businesses, and then they're going to move on to something else, right?
Just the interest on the national debt now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt.
It's already de facto bankrupt. How are you going to pay that off? The gross national product is like $20 trillion. Even if it's 25, you know, whatever it is this year. Or it's 30. Let's say it gets up to 30. You're not going to pay all your gross national product into paying off 2/3 of the deficit. You can't even do that. We're spending more money every year than when we're bringing in. The income of tax revenue is less than our budget every year. And interest is compiling. And that's just the national debt. I show you the debt clock all the time, right? I mean, let's go to that right now. So here they are is $140 billion, right? And this isn't going backwards, right? So let's count it. It's at 500,000, 600,000, 700,000, 800,000, 900,000, another freaking $1 million, right? Just another $1 million of debt. Just as long as it took this, you know, whatever that was, right? And look how fast it's fucking going. It's already up to 3 again. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, another $1 million, right? That's just happened. It was $2 million since I started doing this video clip here. So here, this is calculating not nearly as quick in the amount of stuff that they're saving so far in Doge, which is $140 billion, which isn't nothing, but that's there's that. Then this is the total debt that we owe as Americans, $102 trillion. I mean, the only way they can do this is totally devaluing the currency. That's the only way they can get around this. Social Security, $28 trillion. Medicare, $43 trillion. Total unfunded liabilities, $227 trillion. The issue is whatever tax revenue, that's the way that we get money. And whatever, you know, government selling weapons or whatever. But we're doling out money around the world, and our spending is more than our income. And so if our spending was less than our income, it would have to be $1 trillion less just to pay the interest on the loan. And the loan wouldn't go down. We wouldn't pay anything on the principal. And so, you know, balancing the budget when you have a new administration coming in every 4 years and the Congress switching from Democrats to Republicans and everybody getting a piece of, you know, they're all laundering money and all getting a piece of the government pie. And they all know it's fucked, right? And I don't begrudge them lying about it, because if they told the truth, the system would implode. It would collapse. If they told everyone the truth, you know, then there would be widespread panic. You can't say, hey, we're never going to pay this off. Like him saying this is admitting what's already happened, right? Him saying, let's go back to that right here.
As crazy as it sounds, that is almost a literal description of the work that the Doge team is doing is helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems are extremely old. They don't communicate. There are a lot of mistakes in the systems. The software doesn't work. So we are actually tech support. It's ironic, but it's true. The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address
The dude's fingers in the way here up here. Watch when the
enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt.
It's already happened. So, like, he's kind of admitting it's already happened. There's no way to pay that money. There's no way they're going to get the budget under control. And if they did, it's all this other money. This debt is actually being traded as wealth, bankrupt, default loans and all these things, right? Credit default swaps, all that kind of shit, where people are betting against it. People are swapping debt. Debt is bought and sold. I mean, it's, everything's debt. Our money's debt, IOUs, credit card debt, right? So they can, reboot the economy, which they're going to have to do, and just erase the debt in some way. But if they got rid of all that debt, that's wealth that is somebody, owns. People own debt, and these banks and these businesses are claiming debt, IOUs that people owe them as assets. And they're borrowing money based on that. The whole thing's so fucked, right? It's upside down economy. Because we went with a debt-based economy, this is what happens. The debt just keeps on growing and growing. Because of the interest. I've explained this over and over again, and I'm not some business genius. I just know when we're fucked, right? And I'm willing to admit it. Of course, when I admit it, it doesn't cause the world to implode. But what they could start doing is help people deal with the aftermath. Like, they have a plan and how they're going to transition from what we have now to our, your lifestyle is out of stock. And they're not telling you what that plan is for obvious reasons, but they could help people. They could say, grow a garden and make, give tax breaks for people who are doing things to, facilitate a more local food-based economy and whatever it might be, right? But they're not doing that shit because if they can't control it, they don't care if it breaks or not. If their plan doesn't work, they don't care if we're fucked and left with our asses hanging in the wind, right? Because, they didn't prepare us or tell us that they have a desperation heave, a Hail Mary if it doesn't work. And no one's going to like that Hail Mary, the kind of Agenda 31, how all that bullshit that they're doing, right? But part of the problem, let's let him say one more thing here.
It's not an optional thing. It is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of...
It's an essential thing. Except it's not because it's not going to work. Okay, so I was looking up, my wife told me this, and I don't know this is going around sort of the health people stuff about Trump giving mRNA vaccines to chickens. But I couldn't find anything on the typical search engines. So people can send me that, like legitimate things, that not just some, fucking bullshit right-wing truther or somebody posting, but actually legitimate proof that there's mRNA vaccines for chickens and Trump's approving them. Because that makes a big difference because, if they're doing that, then we'll be eating it in eggs and food. So even if you didn't get it, you'll get it, right? But I'd have to see that, I can't find that anywhere. And I'm saying it isn't true, but, with all the right-wing bullshit that's posted and all the bullshit truther stuff that's out there, I just have a disdain for the truth community now in terms of, like, nothing can be trusted and people just regurgitate and say the same old talking points. And, even if it's true, they've so fucked it by the whole way that they've gone about it in the QBs, so I doubt truther stuff just as much as I doubt mainstream media stuff because it's all fucking disinformation and lies. But anyways, let's get back to Elon here.
Plaque, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I'm going to stack them up,
I get lots of death threats, you guys.
If we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done.
Okay, so if this fails, right, you're saying America would go bankrupt. Like if it fails or you get stopped and you can't do it to the extent that you want to do it. And so this is bullshit because whatever they do for these 4 years, if Trump is, the people turn on Trump, well, in 2 years, it'll probably be a Democratic-run Senate and House. It's more than likely that'll happen. And then 4 years, a Democratic president again, or who knows. But if not 4 years, 8 years, or whatever. And then everything you're doing is going to be redone. And so, and if you don't get it below, if you don't get the budget below the, the amount of income that there's there in terms of tax revenue, then it's fucked. Like, if you guys don't do that now, nobody's going to do that in the future. Like, it has to be done today, and you guys aren't doing that. You guys are just looting and getting rid of other people's looting. You're stopping their looting and increasing your ability to loot.
And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head.
You had a wooden head. You're funny.
There's a lot of wood up there. That we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget.
Okay, so we have a $7 trillion budget, and we have $5 trillion in tax revenue. And then the interest on the loan, which is another $1 trillion. So there's $8 trillion in budget. Like, every year, America's spending $8 trillion. At least. That's just national debt stuff, government. So the government is spending $7 trillion plus an additional $1 trillion of interest on the national debt. And you're going to take maybe $1 trillion off of that, you're still going to be $2 trillion in the hole. So if that's the best you guys can do, then how is this ever going to get resolved, right? It's not. Like, we're spending beyond our means. It isn't going to stop. And, all the stuff that you're doing is going to have drastic effect on the economy. Because all this, this debt-based money that's being dumped into the economy is not going to be there. And you're going to see all these businesses, all these grants that people have. There's businesses that rely on governmental money, like all the things that the government, buildings buy and all this stuff, all the money that goes to colleges and whatever it might be, goes to these places, and they, spend money on vendors and whatever it might be, right? So there's, this money is spent on things, construction and, all these businesses. And so if you take away $1 trillion of government spending that doesn't go to these, businesses and these schools and these things like this, Department of Education, like all the things that are in these classrooms when they build a new school and all the things that go with it, right? And you're not going to have money to do that. And so that's going to, stifle the economy. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that are going to happen because of this. We're just, I can't, analyze them all because I'm not really privy to all the things he's cutting. But we'll start seeing it, and it'll show up in ways that it won't be as, it wouldn't be something you would think, but it's going to affect you in some ways or another, right? Maybe higher gas prices, or maybe just, all these, there's less money in the, if you take $1 trillion of money that's being dumped into the economy away from the economy, that affects so many people. And then they can't spend money on other businesses. It's like a trickle down economic nightmare.
And obviously that can only be done with the support of everyone in this room. And I'd like to thank everyone for your support. Thank you very much. This can only be done with
You're welcome.
with your support. So it's really, DOGE is a support function for the president and for the agencies and departments to help achieve those savings and to effectively find 15% in reduction in fraud and waste. And we bring the receipts. So people say, like, well, is this real? Just go to doge.gov. We line item by line item, we specify each item. So
Yeah, but you've lied about shit, like the $60 billion that was spent on condoms for Hamas to build bombs. Remember this?
In that process, we identified and stopped $50 million being sent to Gaza to buy condoms for Hamas. 50 million. And you know what's happened to them? They've used them as a method of making bombs. How about that?
Okay, so this is a side view. I had to switch over to Fox. This is what I saw. The audio's horrible. Like, this is Trump's first cabinet meeting. The audio sucks. You can hear there's a buzz. It wasn't in the whitehouse.gov, but on all the other ones it is. I checked a bunch of them. And so he's got the Make America Great Again hat. He's got the 45-47. He's got his weird fucking face and the whole thing. Okay, so I'm editing. I need to explain what's going on here. So I was, I did a whole segment, which is about 10 minutes of content, and I forgot to hit the record button. And while I was doing it, I saw that Trump was speaking, and there wasn't a split screen, so we didn't get to see the teacup thing that I saw when I watched the news, which is like the best part of it, and his side view of Elon watching Trump speak. But I found a couple different versions of it, and you're going to see that. But every other version, except for the WhiteHouse.gov, there's an annoying buzz, and it's just horrible. Like, this is supposed to be, I mean, about efficiency. But anyways, let's get into it here.
So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola, Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention.
We all want Ebola. We all want to prevent Ebola because that's fucking scary and real and fucking. We need to do that.
So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately, and there was no interruption. But we do need to move quickly if we're to achieve a $1 trillion deficit reduction in financial year 2026. It requires saving $4 billion per day, every day, from now through the end of September. But we can do it, and we will do it. Thank you.
Would you have any questions of Elon while we're on the subject of those? Because we'll finish off with that. And if you would have any questions.
Yeah, he says something here. Let's see where he. Right here.
Hey, Elon, let the cabinet speak just for a second. Anybody unhappy with Elon? If you are, we'll throw him out of here.
Get him.
Anybody unhappy? They have a lot of respect for Elon and that he's doing this. And some disagree a little bit, but I will tell you, for the most part, I think everyone's not only happy, they're thrilled. So go ahead, Elon.
I'm grateful.
And President Trump has put together, I think, the best cabinet ever.
In history, like it's the best. It just has to be the best.
So, I do not give false praise. This is an incredible group of people. I don't think that such a talented team has actually ever been assembled.
It's like the Avengers. It's like the true fucking dream team.
I think it's literally the best cabinet that the country has ever had. And I think the company should be incredibly appreciative of the people in this room.
Mr. Musk.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. Musk. Are there about half of the government employees so far appear to have responded to your request for what they've been doing over the past week? Is there a timeline in place for next moves for people being fired, and when can people expect to see results of them?
Okay, so let's get it to here. Let's move forward to here.
Federal employees now risk being terminated. And is it your understanding and expectation when you post a directive on X that the cabinet secretaries will follow that order? Because several agencies have instructed employees that this is voluntary or not to respond.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I guess it was like last week, the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also via phone call to be more aggressive. And I was like, okay.
Boom, salute.
You know, yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks.
I do what I said. He says, do something, I'll do something. Be more aggressive, yeah, I'll do it.
And I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying what did you get done last week? And the president said yes, so it did that.
Been there, done that.
You know, we got a partial response. We're going to send another email. But our goal is not to be capricious or unfair. We want to give people every opportunity to send an email. And the email could simply be, what I'm working on is too sensitive or classified to describe. Like literally just, that would be sufficient. I think this is just common sense.
And what is your target number for how many workers, employees you're looking to cut total?
We wish to keep everyone who is doing a job that is essential and doing that job well. But if the job is not essential,
they're fucking off, or it's a worthless job,
or they're not doing the job well, they obviously should not be on the public payroll.
I'd like to add. Wait a minute. Wait.
Okay, so there's a moment like I lost it because I wasn't taping. I went through this and I had the other browser, whatever. Maybe I covered it before, I don't know. But he says somewhere in here that it's They want to shave $2 trillion off the $7 trillion. They want to shave $1 trillion off a $7 trillion budget, right? So they're spending $7 trillion, and there's another $1 trillion of interest. So here's the first part.
If we are to achieve a $1 trillion deficit reduction in financial year 2026, it requires saving $4 billion per day, every day, from now through the end of September. But we can do it, and we will do it.
Okay, so they want to shave $1 trillion off the budget for next year. And that's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. But let me find the other piece to this. So here it is here.
Go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head.
He's got a wooden head. It's funny. Wooden head joke, great.
Got a lot of wood up there. That we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget. And obviously that can only be done.
Okay, 15% of the $7 trillion budget. So I showed you before with the national debt clock. It's $5 trillion a year in tax revenue. So that's our income. We have $5 trillion to spend every year. And we're spending $7 trillion. They want to shave off $1 trillion. But reality is that we have an extra $1 trillion in interest. So we have $800 trillion in the budget, unless you include the interest, which I don't think he did. And so there's unfunded liabilities like Social Security and Medicaid, and we don't have any money for that. It's not even in the budget, right? So, we're fucked in many different ways. But let's say we slice the budget down to $2.5 trillion. So we could spend $1.5 trillion a year on paying off the debt after spending $1 trillion on paying off the interest. I mean, we got to pay $1 trillion in interest every year based on his figures, which I believe to be accurate. And so at $1.5 trillion at a $36 trillion deficit, that'd take 24 years of us being fiscally responsible through, that would be, 4, 5 different presidents possibly, depending on how many terms they are, going back before Democrats and Republicans, new governments, new budgets, and Congress has a lot of say in the way the money's spent. And none of these people are scammers, and none of them are taking money for themselves, and none of them are giving outlandish deals to people on the American dime. That there's just going to be complete discipline and integrity for the next 24 years until we pay off the deficit. Like, that ain't fucking going to happen, right? It's not happening. They're not paying. The deficit is going to continue to grow until at some point people will be like, yeah, this is just too much. And we have to redo it, and then they're going to have to cryptocurrency it and devalue the dollar significantly. It's going to have to be so much inflation that it's going to be scary to people, just so that we can pay off these debts, and we don't default on these debts and whatever it is, right? They're going to have to restructure them, and that's not going to bode well for. It's not the rich people are going to suffer, right? That'll cause like depression and worldwide recessions and things, all this stuff. And so, it's completely fucked. It's an upside-down economy. So you can see the difference in the audio here. Go back to the Fox one.
I'd like to add that those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble.
They're on the bubble. Those guys are fucked.
I wouldn't say that we're thrilled about it. They haven't responded. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist. Don't forget, we just got here. This group just got here.
We're paying people that don't even exist. They're not even real people. We're just paying fucking fake accounts and shit, just doling out money, because we know the American government, if you can get in there, you can really fuck it over. I did it last term, and Biden did it. I did better than Biden, but Biden did it too. And now we're going to do it again. And, we don't want other people doing it.
But those people are on the bubble, as they say. Maybe they're going to be gone. Maybe they're not around. Maybe they have other jobs. Maybe
they're not around. Maybe we'll just terminate them.
And they're not where they're supposed to be. A lot of things could have happened. I wouldn't say that Biden ran a very tight administration. They spent money like nobody's ever spent money before.
Except for me, that I almost spent as much as he did.
Money, the Green New Scam, all of the different things they spent money on, and you've seen that. We've seen that with some of the things that I read at speeches. I read them, and people can't believe when I read them. 20 million here, 30 million here for a little educational course on something, circumcision, right? Circumcision.
Circumcision. They're spending $1 trillion on that. They're using the foreskins for bombs in Hamas. We're doing that Hamas holes.
$20 million to inform the people of such and such a country on other things and other things other than that. So, yeah, those people are, right now we're trying to find out who those people are that haven't responded. Now, there'll be some agencies, like Markle has people within state that are right now doing very classified, very confidential work, and we understand that, and we've talked, and, we're being a little more surgical.
Okay, so I want to show you this. Fuck, this isn't the right one. It showed before he was drinking some tea. So this was a split screen, but let's just watch Elon because that's all that matters here. Trump is going to start talking here.
Should not be on the public payroll.
Mr. President,
He's going to reach down.
wait a minute, wait.
He's got a cup of tea here.
Those million people that haven't responded,
It's such a weird looking.
they are on the bubble. I wouldn't say
He's got a little tea, cup of tea, sipping. This guy's got water bottle. Elon's got a little.
that we're thrilled about it. They haven't responded. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist.
Yep,
Don't forget,
yep,
we just
yep,
got
yep,
this
yep.
group just got here.
Yup.
But those people are on the bubble. as
Yeah,
they say.
let's see. Yup.
Maybe they're going to be gone.
Yes, yup.
Maybe they're not
Yup.
around. Maybe they have other jobs. Maybe they moved and they're not
Yup.
where they're
Yup,
supposed
yup,
to
yup.
be. A lot
Yup.
of things could have happened. I wouldn't say that Biden ran a very tight administration. They spent money
Yup,
like
yup,
nobody's
yup,
ever
yup.
spent
He's
money
right.
before.
Yeah, you didn't.
Wasted money. The Green New Scam, all of
Yup,
the
yup,
things they
yup.
spent money on.
Oh, yeah,
And you've
yup,
seen
yup,
that.
yup. Like, fucking, what's going on here? These guys are fucking your country over right now. All right, let's move on to something else. Okay, so I got to get to Rachel Maddow crying about Joy Reid being fired, but not, and calling her network racist. And then Don Lemon's going after Megyn Kelly about the whole thing. So the whole Joy Reid thing is we're going to revisit that from my last video. That's going to be epic. And then there are a few more things to get to here. I forget what they are. But I want to revisit this. Today's, whatever it is, Thursday, the 27th of February. And why I want to revisit this, I thought about two things. One from my last video about Trump and that egregious thing to do with the Gaza Strip. But here is somebody who was a high governmental official who is looking in depth into the American government, how it's run. And of course they're scamming because that's all this is. Like they're saying, hey, look, Joe Biden and his people were incompetent and or criminal, and they were taking advantage of the American people. And we're great guys, and we would never do anything like that, even though we're billionaires and we're not like you, and we're hoarding money, and we love money, and we love power. We wouldn't do anything like that. And look at these guys who are criminals, and just because we're pointing out that they're criminals, we must be the good guys, right? So we're going to fix it. And so, the Trumpers have just, if you're a Trumper, it's like at this point, your denial is at its maximum because you think he's doing things on your behalf still. And it's like so silly. Like it's just, it's sometimes you got to like become an adult, right? Just in your maturity level and thinking and understanding how people act, especially all these people who love money and power. They're money power people. They're not, altruistic people. But in that, he is admitting something here, and I've covered it already in this video, but I thought about it. I'm like, this is, as big it's a time of big things, right? This is huge, but there are a lot of huge things going on. In terms of the fissures, the holes in the dam as the water comes gushing through. The water, I guess, being truth, and the dam being protecting, the country from being flooded by it. Like the truth is too much for the country to bear. It overwhelms the country. People are going to drown in the truth, right? But him saying this.
The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain, as a country, $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt.
So, of course, I've already showed you this, and I've already talked about it. But I really want to emphasize, like, how fucked up this thing is. Like, I woke up, I was meditating about, and this stuff came back to me. And I was like, holy shit, right? He just said that the country, if we stay on this path, will become bankrupt. Of course, we're already bankrupt now. So that's not news to all of us. But what it is he's using the term bankrupt in America in the same sentence as somebody who's investigating the system. He's given some power and some expertise. And it's always been the national debt. Remember, there was a guy who was congratulating America for going over 35 trillion or something. Remember that senator? But it's been, let's pretend it doesn't exist. It's like one of those problems. It's like having cancer and pretending it doesn't exist, not acknowledging it. No one can say the word cancer. No one can say the word bankrupt, right? We can't say that America is completely bankrupt, that our economic system is completely fucked. We have no way of paying the debt and our liabilities. We have no way of paying Medicare or Medicaid. We have no way of paying all these people who have these promises. We have no way of paying back the Social Security money that you've given to the government that the boomers are now enjoying, but you're not going to get any of it. You're not going to get your Social Security, right? Let's just pretend it doesn't exist. You're never going to get any of this money. The problem doesn't exist. It's not a problem, right? It's like overpopulation. They all know it's a problem. The population levels are not sustainable. The food system, there's all these starving people already. It's not sustainable. The kind of, if everybody had the lifestyle of a suburban American, there'd be no energy. The energy costs would go through the roof, and there'd be no, food. It wouldn't be doable. And it hasn't been sustainable just for Americans. Like, it's just not something that could go on forever. And so they're not going to want to tell you that. Like, it's something they can't tell you. That they have to promise. As elected officials, so-called elected in air quotes, that they have to tell you that, they're going to fix it, that everything's going to be fine. It's the other guy's fault. And when we get elected, we're going to fix these problems. You don't have to worry about it. The other person's run the country into the ground. Biden's run it into the ground. The deficit increased more under Trump than any other president until Biden took over. It's like that for every president. And so there's no fiscal responsibility at this point. It's too much. It's like a person, Trump knows this because he's gone bankrupt numerous times. When you run your debt up irresponsibly, you can't pay it back. So what do? You go Chapter 11. When your debt is so much that you can never hope to pay it back, that going bankrupt, right, declaring bankruptcy, Trump knows about this. He's done it personally. He's declared bankruptcy. Why would somebody who personally went bankrupt and spend money that he didn't have? And, the whole thing about these rich guys is they get cheap money. Elon Musk got $20 billion of grants from the government to do his satellite space shit. And then also, all the stuff to do with his electric cars. The government wanted electric cars. Liberals, he got liberal money. They wanted electric cars, and he got money to do his Tesla company. He's got, billions of dollars in federal grants, and then also cheap loans and things. They get cheap money to do their. How do you think he built those factories? Think he had his own money to build those things, to produce this, this Tesla business and these other businesses? He had money, but he didn't spend his own money. That's how they do it, right? They get cheap money, loan money, and they turn that money into profit because the interest that they're paying back on the loans is less than the money that they're making off of what they've used the money for, right? That's how it works. They get cheap, they get cheap interest rates and then they make a return so they can pay the money back and the interest back, and they're still making more money than they, they made with the whatever they've invested in. But sometimes they don't, like Trump, because he's a fucked up business person, and so they have to go bankrupt, and he still has to get that money back from. He still have to learn. He still has to get cheap money again to do his other projects, and sometimes somehow they keep on giving him more money, even though he's gone bankrupt so many times. And so the word bankrupt should never be used. Never fucking be used in our system, because it's not what we do. We don't tell the truth about things that we can't fix. You don't tell people you're fucked. Hey, you guys, you're all fucked. You're all fucked. That's what he just said. He went bankrupt, fucked.
An optional thing. It is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, but if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why.
You're fucked. You're fucked. Now, $1 trillion, anybody with any economic sense, I'm no great businessman, knows that $1 trillion, when you're looking at $36 trillion, when you're looking at $2 trillion deficit every year, so we're spending $2 trillion, which we're going to talk about, another $1 trillion in interest. So we are operating on a $3 trillion deficit. We're spending $3 trillion more than we have every year. And the interest rate is just growing because the principal's growing. We know that. Like, looking at the debt clock, like I showed you. And so he just said, you're fucked. Hey, guess what? You guys are fucked. You guys are fucked. We can never pay this down. We have to go bankrupt. That's what he's saying to you. He's like saying, if we're doing whatever he's doing is a scam, because he's lying to you about the outcome. The outcome will never be fiscal responsibility. Like, you're going to see the amount of money they'd have to cut off the budget. Like first they have to get everybody who's scamming, including himself and Trump, every person who's getting governmental bailouts and money and startups and whatever government bullshit, whatever money laundering they're doing, all this stuff they've done, which has gone on, just the government corruption. These groups lobby, they pay lots of money to these politicians and people to pass laws that, Israel, for one, these other countries, not just Israel, these other countries that spend lots of money, the big pharma, they spend all this money because it's like seed money. Let's say they spend $50 billion in bribes and things for politicians and, all the things that they do, and they get back $2 trillion, right? So, like, it's nothing for them to spend. When you're getting all this money from the fucking government, well, you can spend some of that money back and give it back to the politicians that voted for your laws that benefit you, right? So he just said, you're fucked.
It has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, there's got a lot of wood up there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings. That would be roughly 15% of the $7 trillion budget.
So there it is, a $7 trillion budget plus another $1 trillion in interest. I covered this yesterday. You're fucked. Elon Musk just told you you're fucked. And he just said it. You're fucked. Because their solution is only, the most they can trim down the budget is $1 trillion, which means you're still $1 trillion in debt, right? You're still going to be, you got $5 trillion in tax revenue, and they've done all these tax cuts too, especially for rich people. So those things are going to kick in. So the amount of income is going to go down if they're giving you tax breaks. So the income is going to be less than $5 trillion, and your budget's going to be at 6 plus another $1 trillion in interest. That's the best they can do. So that's when you know you're fucked financially, right? You know how much you're making, right? You sit down, you look like you're going into debt, and you're spending on a credit card, and you're like hoping that something breaks, like you win the lottery or something to pay it off. I've been in revolving debt. You've been in revolving debt where you can only pay the interest on your credit card. I had that for years and fucking sucked. And you're never going to get out of it. And you're just kind of going to denial, and you're just doing it. You're just living, but you look at what you're making. You look at your rent or your house payment, how much money it costs you for food. how much money it costs you for your insurance on your car and all the things, your car payment and things like this. You look at all those things, and you look at your like monthly spending is, let's say, $4,000 a month, and your monthly income is $3,500, right? Like something like that, right? Whatever it is, and you're operating on a situation that's unsustainable, and you either get more money, or you have to trim down on your spending and get your financial situation righted. And you didn't get trained how to do this. Like, how many people get trained how to do this? They're not in school, probably not by your parents. And so you have to learn how to do this, and then you have to figure out a way to get right with your financial situation. You take a second job, whatever it is. You get a better job, and then you trim down your spending, and you see what you can get rid of. And so people have to do that, especially now. All right, with food prices are going up, right? And so all of a sudden you're spending twice as much as you did on food. And so you're budgeted for, like you have a budget. And these guys have been living above their means by trillions of dollars every year. $2 trillion added to the deficit. For a president, that's $8 trillion after 4 years. And then the interest that goes with it, which is now up to $1 trillion, it's another $4 trillion. It's $12 trillion. And what happens is the value of the American dollar goes down. And so prices go up. And so eventually they have to admit, we're going to have to default on our loan. We're going to have to go bankrupt. We're going to have to go Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 or whatever the fuck it is for a country. And they're going to have to go bankrupt. That's what he's admitting here. It's like inevitable. You're fucked. He just told you you're fucked. And that, that's why they don't say the word bankrupt, because they don't want you to know they know you've been fucked for years. When it was up to when I started making videos 10 years ago, it was like at $14 trillion, the deficit or something. Like 12 or $14 trillion. It's tripled since then. And I knew we were fucked back then. I'm like, I looked at the debt clock and I was like, I'm not a financial genius, but I know when you're fucked financially because I've been through it. I know when you can't, you're living above your means. And so many of us have had to go through that. And so, when you have more money going out than you have coming in, and there's no viable, and, as you get older, your best earning days are behind you, and that's what America's like, where, we're staggering into it with our, the youth being kind of worthless and incapable. They know they're fucked. These kids growing up, they know, they sense it. They don't know the information, but they know they're fucked. They know that they don't have the opportunities that we had and the boomers had. The boomers had the best opportunities. They were the boomers. They were a bunch of young people, young potential at a time where America was on the cusp of all these things developing, right? The age of technology, the computer age, all these things. They were the ones that are going to benefit from. They had the money when the tech bubble was hitting and all these other things that hit, right? And so they're going to have to devalue the shit out of the currency to ever, make it so where they can, they don't have to pay the debt. They just have to make it look like they could at some point. And they can't do that anymore. There's just no way. There's no way America could make the money to pay off the debt. And everything's getting more expensive for America. And they're looting the shit out of the country because they know it's fucked. They'll go somewhere else, right? America turns into a fucking nightmare, a default, a bankrupt country. You know what America's going to like when it's bankrupt? Your lifestyle's going to be like? You're going to be fucked. This is what I talk about. There's no fixing the system. Doesn't matter what you do, who gets elected. Nothing can fix this bullshit that they've done, right? And never mind all the health issues people are going to experience. And so, when there's a massive die-off of the population, when America's population starts reducing instead of growing, there's not enough money in the system anymore, right? There's not enough people to churn out their slave jobs. And so then how are you going to pay it off, right? How are you going to pay it off when, half your workforce disappears, right? Like all these money, when they steal all the money from the upper middle class people, which they have to do, where they just start taking your value because they have to do that. Like they start glomming things. I mean, the American country getting parasitic, the martial law, moving you to concentration camps in these 30-minute cities, 15-minute cities and things. Like, why do you think they have those plans? You think they have those plans because there's a way to fix the system? That we're not going to go bankrupt? Bankrupt, right? Bankrupt means you're fucked in every possible way. And there's more things coming because we're morally bankrupt. And so there's divine repercussions for all the shit that we've done as a country, and including this Gaza thing. Let's go to the Gaza thing now. So this is Donald Trump's thing on Gaza. He put this on his Instagram. And it's so fucking out of touch, right? And so Donald Trump himself said that it's a horrible place because the shit's been bombed out of it, right? It's been bombed fucking to where it can't be fixed. Like they got to clear everybody out to fix it. The infrastructure is completely devastated, right? So like this is what he said about Gaza. It's like the worst place on earth, and nobody should want to live there. So we got to get rid of the Palestinian people and turn it into one of these Trump clubs, a Trump paradise. And he owns it now because through the American government's authority, he could just claim to own Gaza. And so this is like this is like supervillain shit, right? Where a guy, if this was a movie, and you saw they started the movie by showing 20,000 kids, some way of showing you the devastation of kids dying. Like they showed you a nice family, a nice Palestinian family, and what happened to them. And they made it graphic enough so it plays on your heartstrings. Of course, that would never happen because the Palestinians don't run Hollywood, right? So, and we know who does, right? So, but Trump's picture of this place, what Trump has said about it, I mean, look at those fucking guys, man. What Trump said about it is it's like the worst place on earth. It's been bombed to smithereens. If it's been bombed to smithereens and there's 1.7 million people packed, it isn't like there's some desert there. 1.7 million people are packed in an area smaller than the cities, Phoenix and Philadelphia, area-wise, right? So it's 20 miles by whatever it is, right? So it's got smaller area than these other cities, comparable populated cities. And so you go to these big cities and there's just people, wall-to-wall people. There's a park here and there, and if it's a little whatever it is, but it's just people, urban sprawl. And that's what Palestine is. I mean, that's what the Gaza Strip is. And so if you bomb the shit out of it, you're going to kill some kids. You're going to kill civilians, 40,000 civilians, 20,000 children, conservative estimates, right? I mean, if it's 10,000, even if it's 1,000. I mean, based in, how many died in October 7th? Was it 1,500? And so 40,000, and, it's all Hamas's fault, right? This bullshit line of thinking. And so you're building this paradise on the, pain and suffering. This is how you get rid of people who are in an area. I mean, I've seen this happen in India when they flooded the country and they wanted to develop the river area. They had this river that runs through Chennai, and they were putting all these corporate call centers, and, everybody wants waterfront property. It's a big river, right? And so there's all these poor people living there, and they flooded them out. I was there when it happened. How do you get rid of poor people that live in an area that you want to develop, right? There's a part of the city that now, hey, this part of the city would be nice if we got rid of all these poor people. And this is what Trump is saying, because this is the supervillain shit, right? So you start the movie off and you make you feel bad for the Palestinian people. And then you bring in Trump, and he comes in and he wants to fucking develop that land, building it on the blood and the bones and the pain and suffering of these children, these people, him and that fat fuck sitting by the pool, right? Like, this is fucking supervillain shit. Like, this is only, totally unsensitive to people's suffering and the cause of the suffering, which is the Israeli, the Zionists wanting to reclaim this biblical land, that the promised land, right? And all the people in America who are Zionists, all the Christians, all the who don't think of Palestinians as people, like rats. These are like people, cockroaches to be exterminated. That's what Trump is saying. Trump's a fat, fucking lazy, just arrogant piece of shit, right? I mean, he hasn't done any sort of hard labor in his life, hasn't done anything. He didn't fight in a war. He didn't do any of these things. I mean, even fake military service, like some of these guys do, right? Where they do, like the royal family. Even the royal family, these kids, Prince Harry went to Afghanistan and did some, he's protected, he ain't going to get killed. but he's out there, like he's interacting with the soldiers. I mean, these guys are more in touch with the common people. Trump was born as a rich man, given $14 million, $15 million loan, took over his father's business, and got all this money, and was able to bullshit people and con them, and he kept on getting bailed out after one bankruptcy after another, and he wants to turn this place into a place where Trump Tower and Trump merch can be sold. He's partying. Look at those kids. He's making those kids look like those kids who are running through there. He wants to ethnically cleanse the kids, send them into some horrific place that isn't beachfront property in the middle of the desert where it gets up to 120 degrees in the summertime. And so, like, this is fucking egregious. It's, like, horrible. I mean, I was laughing at how bad it was, but there's nothing funny about it. And these Trumpers who voted for this fuck, right? Like, it shows you how insensitive he is. Like, he's just saying, like, look at the ocean there. Like, they have this beautiful beachfront property, and they have, like, natural gas and shit off. They have, like, resources there they could develop. Lots of it offshore. And so the place could be, sustaining. Like, they could be wealthy. The whole population could be wealthy by the, just the resource that they could develop. But Israel won't let them develop it. And sure as shit, they'll develop it once they take over here. All these guys, they'll make all this bank, and these Palestinian people will be. I mean, it's like they're, what happened to the Native American people. They're ethnically cleansing them. They see valuable property, and they're just getting rid of them because they're inconveniently in the way of these horrible people. Like Trump and these people are the worst fucking people in the world. And these Trumpers who think he's, like a fucking reincarnation of Jesus. What a piece of shit, right? It's horrible stuff. Shows you, like, what he's thinking. This is his internal world. Oh, these guys are a problem. The country's been bombed. I don't know how it happened, but their country's been destroyed. Let's move. They don't want to live here, even though they say they do. Let's move them out and develop this land and make bank, right? And it'll be all these billionaires making money, like rich people and like abusers and like bullies and all these pieces of shit. That's how Trump lives. Like, he thinks he deserves to live better than other people. He doesn't. He's like the scum of the fucking earth. He's the worst. There's nobody like fucking, you can't make a case for anybody being worse than him because of all the suffering. Like, you're making profit off of other people's suffering. This is what he is. This is what he's about. And so, this is like so fucking bad. Like, he would post this thing. Like, you just, even if you're like this, like, he's so arrogant about it. Like, he's, this is something I've liked about him. He doesn't hide his evil, but he's so arrogant about it. He's willing to post this shit, right? Because that's what he is. Like, that's what he'll do. He doesn't care. He thinks that he's just so great. Like, he's fucking lost touch with reality, that he could be this blatant in his egoism and his evil and post this thing and show people, and the Trumpers will dig it. The Trumpers, you don't have a heart for the Palestinian people? You don't feel a little bit bad for them? Dead kids? You're not even willing to look at that at all? Of course we're bankrupt. We're morally bankrupt, right? Because was Joe Biden better? No, fuck no. Like, that's how bad these people are. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and people who are supporting the whole government, the whole system. They're filled with people like this, insensitive, dead inside, just, not happy, but still desperate for money and power and things that they don't enjoy, right? How many yachts do you need to water ski behind? How much suffering does people have to do so you could be miserable and complain about your private jets and your yachts and all these things that you don't enjoy? Okay, so let's get into this thing. This is a clip from Megyn Kelly's show. I couldn't find the clip anywhere else. But she makes fun of Joy Reid and Don Lemons, the other big Don, medium Don. We'll get into him in a second. He goes off on Megyn Kelly. But Rachel Maddow says this.
All of the jobs I have had in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door. It is not my call, and I understand that. I will tell you, it is also...
Okay, so it kind of is her call. Rachel Maddow's making $25 million a year. She was making 30. So whatever she's bringing in for ad revenue, and MSNBC is tanking, financially. The ratings suck. So they're not getting a post-election boost of people who want to hear these guys demonize Trump because they back Joe Biden, and people realize that, whatever their legitimacy to slamming Trump in his first administration was, they got no claims now because of all the debacle with Joe Biden and running Kamala Harris. People are just tuning out this news, this mainstream news. And, maybe they come back to it, but they can just get shit on the internet. Like, people are leaving in droves. And so MSNBC and CNN are suffering, right? Fox is always going to have their old people that are going to watch until they don't. And Fox is one channel, which gets all these people. But I think Fox is going to suffer as well because of people like Tucker Carlson, all these things, right? And so the younger people are gravitating to something outside of Fox. And Trump isn't really a big Fox fan. They turned on him. But Fox is doing a little bit better. But they're doing poorly. So like Rachel Maddow had to take a pay cut. And Joy Reid was making $3 million a year and was down to 1.5. And so, it's not, Don Lemons was even making 20, right? And he was up against Rachel Maddow in her time zone. And so they realized, and I don't know how they can pay them that much because they get less than 1 million viewers, right? And so Rachel Maddow could give up some of her money and give it to Joy Reid, right? Like, if she's so valuable to your network, it is your call. You're making $25 million a year. She had made $30 million a year. She's worth hundreds of millions probably by now, making that much money and sucking at her job, right? She's lucky to have an audience. But she's not willing to give up any of her money.
Unnerving to see that on a network where we've got two non-white hosts in primetime. Both of our non-white hosts in primetime
See, look, she gave side eye.
Both of our non-white hosts in primetime are losing their shows.
Side eye. She gave him side eye.
Is Katie Fang on the weekend. And that feels worse than bad, no matter who replaces them. That feels indefensible. And I do
Indefensible. Okay, so the issues was Joy Reid never had any ratings. Katie Fang, whatever her weekend thing is, I've seen a few of her shows. I don't know how bad she is. Other than how bad they all are, right? But think about this. So this was, when you think about the demographics here, like Rachel Maddow could give up some of her money. Like, she has money. But she's blaming the network for firing these two failing shows. MSNBC is hemorrhaging money almost as bad as CNN. They're failing, right? And they've lost their audience. This is why they've gone after truthers and people on the internet so much, because they know I've said this, they're in a battle you can't win, right? Let's see.
not defend it.
Okay, so here are the numbers of these demographics, right? So there's 50 million African American people out there. And so out of that demographic, Joy Reid, who's African American, couldn't carve out some kind of audience. They don't want to watch her. They're not interested in what she's saying, like as a demographic that she could appeal to. And Katie Fang is Korean American. There's 2 million Korean Americans and 50 million Asian Americans. And so, again, there's not that many Asian American hosts or African American hosts. And so they could appeal to those demographics, right? Especially the Asian Americans. Like, African American people don't watch CNN and MSNBC, and I think that's a smaller viewership, right? Because they have a different relationship with the news and the official story. Like, they're born into being potentially truthers because they're a disenfranchised group that doesn't agree with the official story, right? And so you have these various groups that could be people that would watch. They have a demographic, right? You have your demographic of people, whatever it is. Like, the people who, my demographic are truthers who aren't going to be Christian. They're disgruntled with the Christian belief system. They're they're people who they're disgruntled with all the political parties. They're the left-right paradigm, right? They have to have the kind of sense of humor I have, right, and put up with my assholeishness, right, whatever it is, right? They have to like that, or there's certain type of people that would fit into a profile that would watch and enjoy my content, right? You all, like, you guys know who you are and what demographics you fall into, right? And so, Trumpers aren't going to watch my show for the most part. Flat Earthers aren't going to watch my show. QBs aren't going to watch my show. Liberals who are, buying into the official aren't going to watch my show, right? So, there's these people who are going to be excluded by what I'm saying. The things I'm saying do not resonate with what they believe. And so you have these people who hate Trump. That's a demographic. And you have liberal people. But, Rachel Maddow has a bigger audience than Katie Fang and Joy Reid. And her audience members, people who would watch Rachel Maddow, who are, very liberal people. Like, she's one of the most liberal hosts out there. More liberal than CNN hosts at the same time period. The people who would watch her are not willing to watch Katie Fang or Joy Reid. Now, they might say that they're progressive and they like other demographics of people, but why are they watching Rachel Maddow and not Joy Reid and not Katie Fang, right? So it's your viewers, it's your audience. You should be, not MSNBC, the people who overpaying you $25 million a year, and not saying, like, giving them side eye, like they're firing these two people because they're people of color, right? They have an Asian woman on the weekends, and they had an African American woman on weeknights, and Joy Reid, whatever name of her show was, and their liberal audience wouldn't watch it, right? It's like blaming basketball fans for not watching the NBA or the WNBA, right? Well, you don't blame men. There's a Bill Burr, he talks about this on Conan O'Brien or something, where he says, you guys will watch Kim Kardashian, but you won't watch the WNBA. It's women. Like, it's women who aren't watching the WNBA. It's women who are not supporting women's basketball. It's women. It's not men. Like, why are we responsible? Like, we have to watch all this sports, and we have to watch should we choose the WNBA over the NBA? An inferior league of inferior play, right? As fans, like, should we choose the WNBA over men's college basketball, which is better, the men are better in college than they are in the WNBA? A team of elite college players would destroy a WNBA team. It wouldn't be even fair. So why should we watch it? So it should be women. You guys should be supporting it. Don't whine about men. Oh, why you guys aren't watching the WNBA? Why are you guys watching the Kim Kardashian over fucking women who are actually doing shit, like playing sports, like have some redeemable quality, right? And so, I covered the big one in my last video. And so Rachel Maddow should be really yelling at her audience. She should be yelling at the people who are failing to watch these shows and support these people on their network. And those people, they say they're liberal and they say that they're all about Black Lives Matter and things like that. But Joy Reid covered these things, and she was under the gun for doing so. She got criticized by conservative groups. She was always the target of, the right wing. And you guys didn't defend her, watch her, and support her. And Rachel Maddow's audience, she should be lecturing her audience for not watching her and watching the people and supporting these women of color, right? But they don't. They're all bullshit, right? They're now, all these people are kind of leaning towards Trump because when push comes to shove and people get scared, they pretend to be open-minded, but they go back to their prejudicial demographics, right? People align up with the demographics that they support, and they're, these are white suburban people, or urban people who are rich people who, want to claim that they believe in these things, but when money gets tight, they start getting prejudicial. They start getting racist and shit like this. Even these liberal people. They don't admit it, but they voted for Trump, like some of these people, right? They'll never admit it, but they were worried about themselves, and they said, I'm going to choose my group over this group. And that's how it works. That's what I said about what's going to happen when they let biological men play sports, and these liberal people would watch their daughters getting manhandled by these biological men. Like, I knew this stuff would happen because deep down, everyone's selfish in this world, in this country, and they do what they vote with. They vote with their choosing what to watch and what not to watch, and they're self-interested. And so whatever appeals to them about Rachel Maddow doesn't appeal to them about Joy Reid. And so it's your audience. It's your big audience that generated a $30 million salary for you wouldn't at 9 p.m. wouldn't watch Joy Reid at 7 p.m. right? So Joy Reid was on 7 p.m., which isn't the best time slot, but she was making $3 million, while Rachel Maddow was making 30. And then they cut their salaries. They cut Joy Reid's by half, and they trimmed $5 million off of, what is that? 16% of her salary. And so, it's half of Joy Reid's salary is 16% of Rachel Maddow's salary. And so, you could have fixed this yourself. Your audience you could have, begged your audience to tune into Joy Reid. And then you could have given up some money. Like, if you paid her salary, and MSNBC didn't have to pay her salary, I bet they'd keep her on. Like, she was if working for free, then probably be better than the next person they put on there. The next person's going to not generate any, substantially better ratings. And MSNBC wants to be seen as a multicultural network. They're the most liberal one, and they can't generate an audience with the people they're putting on. And there's plenty of African American people on the internet, or Asian American people on the internet, who are Koreans, American people on the internet, who generate a better response than these two women, right? It says Joy Reid has a net worth of $4 million after her book sales and her collective, whatever she's done with her show. And she's now in Don Lemon's land, where she's going to have to go and do networks, some kind of, thing like YouTube or whatever, Twitter or whatever she's going to, whatever audience she has left, she can monetize them and make, $200,000 a year and have her $1 million, sell out, whatever it is. I mean, it's going to be much less than she was making on MSNBC, and she's going to be irrelevant because she failed, right? And there's lots of failures now because you're losing to people who are better at their job and who are part of these same demographics that people are tuning into every day, right? And they can watch it at their leisure. They don't have to watch it when it's on at 7 p.m. Of course, you can record things, but they have these internet celebrities and people that they'd rather tune into. That's where people get their news from. You guys are a part of a dying business, right? I was telling this to my wife yesterday. We were talking about this, not this specific thing, but I said, there's when I was self-publishing, I have some books, self-published book, The Choice and My Friend Within. And I have another one that's already written. All I have to do is put it up on the internet. I'm just, whatever. I'd have to rewrite like the ending of it because of the way that this system turned out, my meditation, right, whatever it is. But I was learning to self-publish. And there was a thing called Lightning Source that was considered the gem of the self-publishing business. And Amazon was putting out their own version of this called, I can't remember the name of it now, but whatever, it did the same thing that Lightning Source did. And Amazon then gave you a store on Amazon to sell your books. So when you self-published through them, you were already hooked into Amazon. And Lightning Source was considered better, and people, who were self-publishing for years liked it, but they realized they had to go over to Amazon and use Amazon services. And I was reading this guy, this guy is some kind of ebook. I was learning about this stuff, and this guy had self-published so many books, and he was, part of this. He had written books about it, right? And he said, a lot of people love Lightning Source more, but the reality is you have to go to Amazon, because he used to use Lightning Source. He said, I like Lightning Source better, but it's just better for you to go to Amazon because, you have these books you can sell directly to your people, and Amazon gave you this store where you could make more money. So all the people that would read anything you put out, these authors who had a following, they would make more money by selling it directly through their Amazon store than using Lightning Source and then publishing it on Amazon. They wouldn't have this store that was set up. And so there's other advantages to doing it on Amazon. And so, in terms of getting your ratings up and these things. And so the people who were using Amazon were just better off. And he said, you're fighting a battle. It was something like 2012. And he said, you're fighting a battle that was lost in 2009. Right? And so these people in the news media are fighting a losing battle that was lost 5-10 years ago when people realized that they could get information from people on the internet, right? And the news only serves as providing clips for all of us that show you what's going on in the world. Like, we don't have a news team, so we need some level of news, but not these pundits that analyze shit, right? Like, the news clips. The pundits are there to make fun of both sides of it. And so, this is where we're at, and they're a dying business. And for Rachel Maddow to give side eye to her MSNBC handlers, like they're all racist, prejudicial people that couldn't wait to fire Joy Reid, it's the failure of your network and your media and all of it that's caused this problem. It's your audience and their lack of interest in your bullshit, right? And your audience that will watch you but won't watch these other people. And you're losing your audience because they're paying you less money. And they're going to probably have to pay you less as it goes down. And maybe they're paying, are they operating on a loss? Does Rachel Maddow show generating more than $25 million? Because it's not just her. She's got a staff of whatever many people that are part of that. They have to pay all their overhead. So they have all their overhead, which is a part of her show and the rest of their shows. They're all responsible to pay all the human service people, all the administrative people. How many people work there at MSNBC. So 7,000 people work at MSNBC, right? So, they have to pay for all that, and the buildings and the rent, and or whatever all the stuff that they have to pay, the electrical bill, the equipment, right? So her show has to generate enough money to pay her $25 million and also pay for her portion of all of these other things that they have there. Just like CNN, they're firing people. They're hemorrhaging money. And so her $25 million, like Don Lemon's $22 million settlement he got from his them just wanting to get rid of him and the rest of his contract. They have these contracts. And they're not, generating enough money to justify the contracts that these people have, right? These personalities, because it's a dying business. And, it sucks and nobody really wants to watch it. And the people that do want to watch it, people tune into Rachel Maddow or any of these people, the Hammer guy or any of them, right? Chris Cuomo's, all these people. The people tune into them and say, wow, this is good. This is good content. They're not, they're horrible people. They're they're dead inside. Like, how could you look at this shit and think it's good, right? How can you look at it and say, wow, I'm really informed, right? So that's where we're at. Okay, so Megyn Kelly's take on it was basically that she provided content, Joy Reid, that you could mock, which is our thing, not her thing, right? We've been doing this for whatever period of time. I mean, lots of people do it. It's not like we invented it here in the truth community. But Megyn Kelly's an interloper because she was on Fox shilling for their bullshit, right? Just like Tucker Carlson. And, fine, you can say that, but it's not as good as what we do. But, it is what it is. And Don Lemons took offense to it. And so this was recommended to me. These all things came in later after I covered this in my last video.
Usually I don't like to pay this person, as they say, no, never mind. No, never mind. But
hot takes. Megyn Kelly, girl, bye.
Figures someone had to say it.
That's the title of this video.
Someone had to stand up, especially for the women.
Someone has to stand up for the women. Who can better stand up for the women than a guy who got hired for his misogynistic positions on his co-hosts when he got into it? Remember, he got into that thing with his co-host like that. He's the guy who's standing up for women. You got fired for your mistreatment of your fellow women, your women employees at CNN. Let me show you that. So there was two things that happened between his co-hosts. One in which Caitlin Collins, who was Don Lemon's considered her inferior. Remember, they moved him to the morning show where he said it was a promotion. It was clearly a demotion. They didn't know what to do with his contract. And he said that he was going there to pump up their morning show, which he didn't. The ratings tanked. He was losing to Morning Joe and all these other Today Show and all these things. And so he argued with Vivek Ramaswamy, which was bad. But then he had these two moments with women on air, and one of them was with Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin was trying to, play like the person that handles the personalities, like the Ernie and the NBA, the NBA Today or whatever that show was on TNT. Ernie Johnson, who kind of, the master of ceremony. There's these people who are the hosts and they handle the personalities. And Caitlin Collins was trying to go to commercial, and Don Lemon's in the middle of talking. He's used to running his own show. He's on his own show where he could blather, and now he had to share the stage with these two women. And he didn't like it, and he thought that they were lesser than him. And Caitlin Collins kind of tries to interrupt him to go to commercial break, and then he, talks over her, and then during the commercial he just screams at her. So, like he was mistreating both of his co-hosts. This is the first example.
Weekend too about this possible deal. Forget now the CNN's Frederick Pleitgen.
Before you go to Fred, can I just add?
Frederick Pleitgen joining us from Berlin with the news this morning. We are told that the swap happened at the Abu Dhabi airport. We're standing by for the President of the United States.
It's been 10 months since she's been held in captivity.
8:30 this morning. We need to also tell you, see President Biden expected to speak at the White House at any moment now.
And one
he
thing
was
to
briefed.
watch.
Stand by 1 second. He was briefed throughout the morning. It was awaited confirmation from Griner back in U.S. Custody.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, the conditions that she's been living through.
The
There's
President of the United States is entering the room with
President Biden.
They're both interrupting each other, right? He's talking over her. He's mansplaining stuff. And he yelled at her at a commercial break.
And the Vice President.
Such
And John,
a big
glad
moment.
you were here.
Yeah,
Thank
such
you.
important perspective.
And I watched the show, and this went on for a while, this kind of stuff here. But
Thank you. That's going to be it. That's the time that we're in, where facts are sort of flexible. And
That's
you
why
just-
we got Caitlin
you
Collins
just
on the
throw
Hill,
things out there.
fact-checking in real time. It was a great interview.
Citing incredible sources, like citing the New York Post as a credible source and saying that facts are, it's just, I can't believe that we're here.
Caitlin, that was a great interview. All right, moving on.
Anyway, well, now moving on, because that's a big issue when it comes to the American, hold on please with the music. That's a big issue when it comes to the American people. The American people are going to have to suffer through all of this stuff, from election deniers to people who don't believe in facts. We don't have a shared reality, and now it's taken center stage to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, an election denier.
okay, so look, she's just like, she's tolerating him. They're supposed to be going to commercial. There's another thing where he said something about, I'll find that one as well. And, these are the reasons he's fired, like his treatment of his coworkers who were women, his mistreatment of them.
Denier, a conspiracy theorist, a QAnon sort of influencer or supporter presiding over the House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. It's a sad day for America when that happens, and it's a sad time for us when we have to deal with that.
And I also think, and that was the point I was trying to make, is why it is critically important to constantly and in real time fact check. Right?
Yeah.
And say, for example, Merrick Garland appointed the special counsel, as Caitlin said, for both Trump and Biden. And are you going to treat these things the same?
The same as going back to a special counsel. I'm not sure if it's the same kind you and I
He interrupted her again. Look at her, she's getting pissed.
were talking about it for Bill Clinton
Yeah.
when it came to Ken Starr. Was that effective and what it's not? Well, it's not. But I think there should be equal treatment by all. If you're going to appoint a special counsel for the former president, then you should appoint one for the current president
Yeah.
and possibly for the current the vice
Yeah.
president and what have you. So here we go. We'll be right back.
So there's that, right? Then there's this other one here. Let me find the Nikki Haley one. You know, I search on YouTube, and I always end up searching on Twitter. And Twitter, I always find it there. I'm just going to start searching on Twitter. Sucks that YouTube, like, they like hide these fucking clips. I don't know what they're doing. But anyways, you know, these were just some highlights. But if you saw the show, whenever I looked at little clips of the show, in the beginning they were all positive and they were all celebrating this potential. But the ratings started to tank, and you could tell like they hated each other, which often happens because these people all have big egos. So they often don't. They're cynical and they're just negative people, and they're all into their own brands and their own whatever's going on with their personal careers and things, and they're competitive. But in front of the camera, they remain cordial and often sort of semi fake affectionate. But they hated him so much that their vitriol, their hatred for him started to leak through. And they started to like call him on his bullshit on air. Like he's so arrogant and so clueless. And this is how the show fell apart. I mean, the ratings were bad, even with this kind of stuff, which people would tune into. And these were just the things we saw. And then there are all these things that were going on behind the scenes.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s. And maybe
so look at her. They're both, but she is fucking pissed.
Be 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends.
She hates him.
It's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has.
Like, it isn't this kind of show. It's supposed to be like an upbeat morning show, competing with the Today Show and these other things. Morning Joe. You're not supposed to be like at each other's throats, right? This isn't like a point counterpoint type of thing. And he ended up having to apologize to CNN employees for what he said here.
Has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being?
Don't shoot the messenger. You're the only one who said this. This is your take entirely. Nikki Haley said Donald Trump should take a mental competency test, which is the correct response for you CNN shills. Is yes, she's right. Nikki Haley wasn't going to run for president. And so Nikki Haley shouldn't take a mental competency test because she's in her 50s or 60s and Trump is in his 80s, and she's not going to win the nomination. And you guys are all about bashing Trump. But somehow he was like, well, she's not in her prime. And and then this is like this is feminist 101. You don't say women aren't in their prime or women's prime is younger than a man's prime. Like, you never say shit like that. Every man knows that. Like, every conservative man wouldn't say, oh, yeah, she's past her prime. In terms of, like, understanding the reaction of the people you work with and the women in your life, right?
Say what the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime. And they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime, according to
Google.
Google or
like, she's just fucking openly mocking his stupidity, and he just shouldn't give his opinions because his opinions suck. So let's go back to Don Lemons here.
I figure someone had to say it. Someone had to stand up, especially for the women
who are not in their prime. So women who are past their prime, a woman of a certain age.
who she insults on an almost daily, weekly, whatever basis. And she's supposed to be some big proponent of women's rights. She said something nasty about Joy Reid. And the reason that I did it is because I never take glee in anyone's downfall. I didn't take glee in Megyn Kelly. I'm talking about Megyn Kelly. I didn't take glee in her downfall when she was fired from.
Come on, bro. You take glee in their downfall. Like, this is what you guys do. You're competitive. You're hyper competitive. And, this idea that, Megyn Kelly doesn't consider, at least now she says, this being her downfall, right? the difference between you, Megyn Kelly, and I don't know what Joy Reid's going to do, is when you're liberated from the shackles of your network handlers, where you can actually go out and speak the truth that you see. And it should be liberating, and all you guys have money. And so you have an audience that you've created, even a shitty little audience because you suck. It's still, you created enough people. He's getting 47,000 views on this, right? Where they will watch you say what you're, say these things, right? What we're doing is we're saying, we think that our opinions and our takes, we all have this, this take thing, right? Which is, we all have a take, right? We all have an opinion about what's going on in the world. And everybody who's on the internet and all these people on the news, all these commentators, all these people that, become these experts and these, these people who do commentary on the news and, editorialize these things, all think that our opinions and our assessment of what we see, the lens in which we view the world, is worth other people listening to, right? Like what we do here, all of us. I saw a comedian talking about this, and he was like, my thoughts. You guys want to hear my thoughts, like the arrogance behind this. But, there's some reference point. There's some, not reference point, there's some need for this. And the need for this is about, people need to learn. Like I needed to learn. Like I had to listen to people. Like I listen to people and, people who knew more and still do, right? There's things that people know more than I do. And so when I see something, if I watched other truthers, which I don't, but when I see certainly CNN and these other people, I think I have a unique perspective and something that needs to be said about finding the divinity within you. So that's, my justification for sitting here and, talking about my opinion about all these things, that I feel like I have some insight. And really it comes down to, do other people feel the same way, right? Do other people feel like you have some insight, and are you serving, the greater good by talking about things? You can make money at it, but are you actually doing something? Are you adding, is it something, at least for me, is it my content adding to the world? Is it making the world a better place? And that's something you have to think about from time to time, right? And so, I got a comment the other day. Let me see if I can still have it up here. I don't know if I deleted it already. It's from a while ago if I did. Here it is, I think. I don't know. It's not up here. Oh, here it is. And so this person wrote this long comment here. And they were talking about me, my incongruity between my spiritual cleaning that I do and then diving into the beast. And, I said, you're welcome, because I have to do this for you all. Like, I don't give a shit about this stuff, right? Amongst other reasons. But there's a part where the person says this: I tried making videos, and in the end, I felt was counterintuitive to everything that brought me joy and true meaning in my life. YouTube is a machine that grinds people up and as a little dystopian cat video for flavor, then drops you into the furnace for energy to keep the YouTube Google system going. So that's just a bullshit take. YouTube and all these platforms are a vehicle for you to verbalize your thoughts. This is where you display what you, creative content, or what you think, or what whatever's going on inside of you, whether it be pictures or even a cat video. And mostly it's like you want other people to watch you. I mean, this is the whole reality TV situation. They have this goofy saying on like these shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. We watch that, the farm version. Even in Australia, they say this. There's these farmers in Australia. This Farmer Wants a Wife show. That's a couple of seasons in America. My wife and I like this show. We laugh and joke and, mock the people, but it's a little bit better. We could never sit through The Bachelor. But they say this line, I hope that person's here for the right reason, or I'm here for the right reason. And that's always bullshit, because the reason they're there is because they want to be on TV. Because the right reason is to find love. And there's, it's a dysfunctional system where you're one person dating 20 other people. You never find love that way. It's the worst way possible. That you would go randomly picked people. The Farmer Wants a Wife show, they show these women who volunteer for the show, they give them the choice of these different farmers and they pick one. So there's some level of that. Based on, it's like internet dating, which is not another flawed system, right? And so to think that you're going to find your spouse out of 25 random people who show up and you're going to meet one of them while stating the other ones in this competitive, putting it all on TV, which adds to, the grossness of the thing. And so the real reason they're all on there is they want to be on TV. I mean, they might want to also find love. And so, there's just this need that people have to be heard. And that's why they have Facebook profiles. You want people to like your pictures or, to agree with what you think about. And when you verbalize your thoughts, you put your thoughts out there, you're looking for validation. And sometimes you get torn to pieces, right? But this person said that they were too good for YouTube, that they realized they were above it. Yet you're commenting on my video on YouTube and giving your opinion about me, which is completely off base, right? Like your take sucks, and you're still doing it. So what's the real reason you stopped making videos? Nobody watched them, right? Or people told you sucked and your takes were stupid. Whatever it is, probably it was nobody watched them, and or maybe a few comments were there where people like, oh, you suck. And so you quit, because you thought I'm just above this. These people don't value my opinions, right? So that's what this comes down to. And so all these people are doing the same thing. And so for Don Lemons to come out and say, oh, I don't revel in these people's demise. Well, that's not true. And one, and two, you're free from the shackles of mainstream media. The majority of us would never, bow down to that, because it would be unthinkable to do this job where you couldn't verbalize your own thoughts. I mean, it sucks bad enough as during the censorship years, the really bad ones under Biden, here on YouTube and these other platforms. But now, there's more freedom, or freedom of expression, but being able just to say what you think, and sometimes it's just like a cathartic thing where you have some place to say these things, right? But, it's just silly. He's just he's so transparently clueless about what he really does. Because I think he kind of believes what he's saying, but he doesn't really realize how bad he sucks at it. And out of all these people, he's by far the worst. He's just the stupidest.
NBC. I had to report on it as a journalist.
Oh, let's go back here.
I had to report on it as a journalist, but I didn't take...
He was talking about Megyn Kelly getting fired from MSNBC.
Glee on the downfall. And if you look back, I said, NBC is to blame here. So I gave her the benefit of the doubt.
That's so great. You're such a great man. This idea that your opinion matters. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, right? That's how great I am and how shitty she is.
And she posted something saying that I was sort of drafting off of her light or whatever, and I couldn't get any press or whatever. I was actually quite disappointed in it, because I thought she would have a better response if she chose to respond to it. And it was a weak response. I'm like, okay, whatever. And so she's saying that
So you didn't understand her response, is what you're saying? Because, you could see in those interactions I showed you that the people in the place hated him. CNN, they hated him. That all the employees hated him. They talked about him behind his back. And he was so clueless about it. He was clueless about how bad his takes were. This is a hot take, right? He's calling this a hot take on Megyn Kelly. And, these takes are horrible. There's people who watch this. And it's sad that there are people who think this is good content, unless he's getting inflated numbers on YouTube. But there's 40,000 people who tuned into this. Maybe some of them tuned in to mock him, whatever. But let's say 20,000 are like, wow, he's cracked the code here, right? He just penetrates to the heart of the matter. I mean, people who think that way. I mean, there's Americans who think that way. And there's so much bad content on the internet. It's just dumbed down content. People think it's brilliant because they're, the remedial minds. I mean, this is where, a definition of America is based in the fact that people have an audience, that you're like, how does this person have an audience?
I am doing it because I want press. No, that's not why I'm doing it. Actually, I felt weird doing it because it's something that is out of my character that I don't usually do. I don't usually respond, especially to trolls. And I believe that she has become a troll now. And I believe that the evidence is there.
The evidence is there. She's a troll now in the category. She's a troll. She's just trolling like you troll Donald Trump and these people, right? Like everyone's a troll, right? By that definition. This is the business of giving your opinion is shitting on other people is a part of it, right? Shitting on other people has to be a part of it, or you're not going to have an audience. The majority of people who tune into people's opinions want to hear you shit on somebody, right? Like this is, without shitting on people, you don't have a show. Like it's something that I'm shitting on people I don't even care about. Like I don't have any anger or hatred or negative feelings about. I mean, like I couldn't watch them. I couldn't watch this unless I was going to shit on it, right? I cannot watch this guy talk. I'm not interested in what he has to say. Only if I'm going to, like me and my wife are watching and I make jokes about it. That's the only way I could watch it. There's some content you can only watch if you're going to make fun of it, right? Bad movies, like that movie, The Room, right? And they made a whole, the movie they made about was funny with the guy who got Me Too'd or whatever his name is. Don't tell, though you don't care, don't need to know. I can see his face, but whatever. But that epically bad movie. And there's some things that are made so you can shit on them, right? I mean, that's the only reason you could watch them, and people would watch them. And, that's what this is about. People like to hear other people get mocked. That's, because that's kind of the lowbrow level of consciousness we have. And if you want to present other things, more noble, more evolved opinions, you have to get in the muck. That was my whole point when I answered these comments that people were saying that I was getting sucked into the beast. I'm like, at best you could call me, at worst you could call me aloof. At best you could call me spiritually detached. But I don't care about this stuff. But to have a show, I have to shit on it, right? People want to hear me shit on stuff. And, I kind of enjoy it. Like, I don't mind shitting on them. I'm not above that kind of thing. In a way that I'm doing it for my job. Like, I could, I don't need to do this other than that, in my personal life. I could joke around with my wife or something about things, but I'm not going to watch Don Lemons for half an hour to do this or whatever. Or I'm not going to cover Joy Reid or any of these things, Rachel Maddow or Megyn Kelly, because I don't enjoy their content. I watch it for one reason only, to shit on it. And so if it's not something I can shit on, then you're not going to watch it, right?
So I usually don't like to respond to those things. And the entire time that I have known her and she has attacked me, I have ignored her. You will rarely find a headline, except for when she got fired and all the headlines that were yesterday, that I have ever talked about Megyn Kelly ever. Because I don't think about her. I am actually embarrassed for her.
You're embarrassed for her. So you pity her. There's nothing worse than pity, right? You pity Megyn Kelly. This is great.
That she does what she does. And so I think that when people hold up a mirror to you, that sometimes you just need to look in that mirror and go, you know what? Maybe they're right.
Oh my God. You just say that, right? You just said it, Don Lemons. The cluelessness, the inability to self-perceive on this guy.
And so let me just hold up a mirror, because she's saying that I did this or whatever. But here's a mirror. These are the times, some of them, not all of them, that she has attacked just me, has used me for content and to resurrect her career after she got fired. This is just some of the times that she has attacked me. You will rarely find a headline of me attacking.
But you don't think about her ever, right?
Or calling Megyn Kelly out, except for when she got fired, and I had to analyze it. Evidence, proof.
He watches it. He watches this stuff.
I got so many people responding to me, mostly women who work in TV news and some who work at Fox, who were so happy that I did what I did. Could not agree with you more on Megyn Kelly. She is a troll, a woman who worked with her. It's, whatever, I won't give her name. On Megyn Kelly, I have no notes. Fire. women. Mazel tov on your response to Megyn Kelly. The world has gone mad.
Okay, I got to find the response because I don't think he's going to say it here unless he replay. Hopefully, he replays it.
These are women. And let me just say, because this is why one reason I did it, if she should be supportive of all women, even a black woman, even someone as a journalist who she disagrees with. So I just want to play, and I want you to listen to what she said about one of my former colleagues.
Okay, so this is here.
Will be Joy Reid's final show on MSNBC. Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy. She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC's under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality. The truth is, this is very sad news for us, as she's provided so much material over the years. I feel the way I felt when Brian...
Okay, so this is what he originally... she talked about Brian Stelter here.
Stelter got fired, but he came back, and you never know. I'm sure Joy Reid will want...
Okay, so this is, just typical banter from this kind of, right-wing, left-wing banter between these two horrible groups of consciousness, right? So this was Don Lemon's original response. Hot takes, bless your heart, Megyn Kelly.
Now, let's talk about the haters.
See, he's mocking her for being fired from the Today Show. So he comes out, this is his thing. He went and purchased a Megyn Kelly Today Show cup, or he already had one.
In case you're not watching and you're just listening, this is a Megyn Kelly Today mug from the Today Show. This is my
because this is worth pointing out. This is going to be great.
Megyn Kelly mug.
Both sides, two sides. It says it on both sides. In case you're listening, he turned it from one side to the other. It's on both sides of the cup.
Instead of supporting, just remember, Megyn Kelly is allegedly, right? Although I do hear the streets are talking that allegedly she's not as supportive of women as she makes out to be, especially that whole thing that went on at Fox News with Roger Ailes and all of that. They're like, really? Megyn is saying that? Huh? Y'all don't know her. Oh, I'm going there.
He's going there. Boom. He's going there from some rumors he heard. I mean, how many degrees of separation are there between him and the people who worked at Fox News that were around Megyn Kelly? Are they hanging in the same circles, right?
I usually don't like to talk about her because she's one of those people. She thrives on it. She has built the second part of her career on being a troll.
Boom. Troll. He already said that. He said that later, but he's defining her as a troll. Look at this insight. She is now a troll. Look at his insight. Look at his ability to look at somebody and read them and come up with an explanation. Oh, you're so jelly. You're so You're so jealous, right? These takes that anybody can say. Like just the remedial, not being able to understand things, but, not be able to look at a person and see them as whatever they are. And I do that here. Like I see people for what they are. I mean, not all of what they are. You can't do that. But what's going on inside? Some curiosity of what makes people tick. What's inside their internal world. A vast internal world of, trauma and stupidity and, emotions and, the lens in which they view the world. It's human beings are very complex. And so people reduce them, reductive opinion. Oh, they're a troll. Oh, they're just jealous. These kind of things, right? When people say stuff like that, it means they have no ability to look at somebody else and understand their point of view. And you can understand his point of view because it's very simple. His point of view is whatever other people are saying on CNN or these other places. It's very it's a group think, but not being able to really understand it. So doing it poorly, regurgitating what other people say without understanding why they say it or what it means, right? That's what goes on with Don Lemons. He takes a very conventional position without understanding any part of it. He doesn't understand his opinion. He doesn't understand the people's opinion that he's copying. He doesn't understand the opposing opinion. He understands none of it, right? Don, shady as hell.
On being a troll. Let's do a Google search on Megyn Kelly, shall we? Just to prove this. I'm going to set up some evidence before I show you this. Let's do a Google search of Megyn Kelly, Andy. Shall we, producers?
Okay, let's move forward because we've seen this
Did you
before.
see this on the show today? And then the media will push it out, especially if it's right. We just finished with Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly calls out this person. So this is what Megyn Kelly said about Joy Reid, right? And remember, Joy Reid is a woman. Megyn Kelly is a woman. She's supposed to be all about women and, supports women. Okay, so this is...
Okay, so that's your thought. Like your remedial take is that all women agree with other women and support other women when other women fall or get fired. Do you not know women at all? Like that's not... no women does that. Women are much more petty about these things. What are you talking about? You think that all women share one opinion, a Borg mind, and they always agree with each other, and when any of them fails or suffers, that all women get behind every other woman? Women are much more opinionated and much more, spiteful about these things. Right? And so, look at that. Look at Don go.
What she said. Remember when Joy Reid laughingly mocked white women tears as pathetic and offensive to her? Who's crying now, Joy? Good riddance to the absolute worst person on television, and shame on NBC for letting it go on this long. And she has she is an axe to grind when it comes to MSNBC, and also, this whole, she's racist, right? It's just, I'm gonna give you the evidence.
Okay, but Joy Reid did talk about white women's tears. That's what you said, and it was something that was brought up, and so that's not her being racist, at least in this situation. It's her talking about something that Joy Reid said that was offensive to white women, saying white women's tears are different than black women's tears, and they're fake, and what all the things that she said, right? I mean, let's just play the clip here. Okay, so here it is. Some moron put music behind this. I don't know why people have to do that. I don't know why people have to have music. If you're either going to listen to somebody talking or not. But adding fucking music, it's just annoying. But here it is.
There's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like, Green Waterworks. White men can get away with that too, and it has the same effect.
So this is her take, and so this blew up on right-wing media whenever this happened, or this was some old thing that she said that came up when she had her show, and this was Megyn Kelly's responding to, right? What happens is the clip gets like something goes viral, and then everybody shares it. Like I found this clip with the music behind it. I just want to add something. I'm editing here, but I just want to add something. A little bit of a pet peeve of mine. And so all these people share it. It goes on Instagram. It's shared by all these different platforms, multiple people on TikTok, and then all the other clips disappear. And then the bots or whatever, the algorithms, especially now that they've been gamed and manipulated so they don't give you what you want. And so you search for this clip, and this is the only one you get, one with music. And you can't find the original anymore. And so, it just sucks when people do that. Like, you don't need to add music because everyone's got to learn to just listen to fucking people without music, right? You don't need a soundtrack to your life. When somebody's talking, whether you want to mock them or not, or whether you want to, listen to them and figure out what they're saying, you should be able to do it without music. If you need music, then there's something wrong with you, right? You should be able to just listen to people and assess what they're saying so you can turn them off if you don't want to, right? The music is there to manipulate your emotions and tell you how you should feel about something. Like the music of this thing is like horror, like something you see here in Halloween. It's like Halloween music, the movie Halloween, right? Some kind of horror music. It's supposed to, make you like angry and make you scared. These things. It's supposed to trigger your negative emotions. So that's what music does. it pulls things out from you. And so it's manipulative. Anybody slapping music on this is manipulating their audience, which is really what I'm talking about in this whole video. Okay, so she also had this take on election night where she said that white women didn't come through for Kamala Harris. Black people came through, but white people didn't. White women. And that white women voted their race instead of their gender. And so she's had these kind of takes where, you know, the right wing reacts, and that's what Megyn Kelly was responding to.
Supposedly learned from it and then spent every day after apologizing for it and being fired for it, then spent every day proving the point that she is a racist. And not very supportive of women. If you look, all you have to do, the evidence is in her Google search. And
again, conservative women and liberal women hate each other more than any other demographics. Whatever, you know, these demographics that are broken down. Conservative women, you know, people like the fake Christian Barbie and Rachel Maddow or Joy Reid or any of these liberal women, they hate each other more than men, liberal men and conservative men. Women are more prone to these kind of things, right? Women are much more cliquey, right? They're much more, I mean, in terms of their, you know, social structure and all these things. And so, like, he's clueless. He knows, like, nothing about women. He got fired for not knowing anything about women and then working with two women. So, like, he has no ability to, I mean, he can't even, you know, figure out what men are thinking. Certainly, he isn't going to figure out what women are. He can't even figure out what he's thinking himself. He doesn't know what makes himself tick. Like, he doesn't know where his opinions come from. He has no idea because he can't think for himself, right? And so he can't assess things and look inside. There's no depth there.
She says about women, how she calls them out all the time.
Let's move forward here. Here's some more.
Trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface
Yes.
on Halloween, or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween. Like, back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character.
If somebody feels like something is offensive to them, then you should say it, and that's fair game, and you should be able to take it if you're going to dress.
You're going to be. It's
So
going to be
this just
jarring.
goes on
But
for
what
a
I'm saying
while.
is, imply darker than it really is, and people.
No, that was funny.
I don't know.
Me too.
And by the way, I haven't seen the other,
too.
but if she really wanted to look like Diana Ross, she should have dressed as Michael Jackson, because they.
No, that was funny.
I don't know.
That was fun.
I can't keep up with the number of.
Why are you not laughing?
Just,
Is that a Joan Rivers kid?
come on, we're already in the deep end.
Literally.
Of the pool. I can't keep up with the number of people that we're offending just by being like normal people.
It's not normal people. And you don't, in order to be Diana Ross, you don't have to darken your skin. And it's not okay. Blackface was never okay and is not okay. And is not okay.
But is it okay for, say, a man to dress up like a woman? Is that okay? Is that not, you know, is that not the same thing, Don?
And then she apologized. Here's the apology. After she got in trouble.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Megyn Kelly, and I want to begin with two words. I'm sorry. You may have heard that yesterday we had a discussion here about political correctness and Halloween costumes.
Okay, let's look for. Oh, look, there's some fake
Listen
blood.
to.
Oh, wait, go back.
To be part of that. Thank you for listening and for helping me listen to.
Woo! Oh, look, they paid black people to applaud for her. Look at this fake standing ovation.
Okay.
See, this is the same network. Joy Reid was on MSNBC and Megyn Kelly was on NBC. And look at this fake fucking reaction.
Girl, bye. Because if you had actually learned from that, look who's crying now, right? Those crocodile tears. Look who's crying now, as she said to Joy Reid. Look who's crying then with the crocodile tears. Because had she learned from that, she wouldn't spend almost every day.
Okay, she didn't learn from it. That's fake. Like, it was totally fake. You can't see that it's fake because that's the fake shit that you do. It's the same fake shit you do, right? I just got to find the thing where he says, fuck off and go fuck yourself. So it's here at the end. So he tries to do this stuff where he says he's presenting evidence. Right? You know, this is third generation copying. I mean, this is something made popular on the Daily Show where you'd show clips and then shit on the people, right? And, that was copying from people doing it on the internet. Like, people would do that when we had the ability. But they used to copyright these clips. So, you can only use a certain amount of length of the clips, and it was a whole thing, right? But, this was something that's been around for a while. And Megyn Kelly does it, and he does it. And, it's not what they learned from mainstream media. It's what they do now. And so you're trying to be like a person has independent thought, but he comes with a CNN point of view. Like, he can't unchain his limited thinking ability, his mind, from the shackles of CNN, right? And his liberal beliefs, where you can, this is the same thing with conservatives or everybody else, where you can just look at things and not have to fit yourself into a category, or not have to be like, oh, I hate this group, or I hate that group, or I dislike this group. I could never say anything good about them, or I could, never agree with them, or any of these things, right? It's just seeing what you see with a sort of a blank slate without any prejudice, because this is all about prejudice, prejudging one group or another. I like this because I'm part of this group, but I dislike this because I'm part of this group, right? Because they're part of that group. Where you have these prejudice. Like, free yourself from all prejudice and just evaluate what you see to the best of your ability, right? We all have prejudice towards mainstream media. I saw a comedian talking about this, and he was like, my thoughts. You guys want to hear my thoughts, like the arrogance behind this. But, there's some reference point. There's some, not reference point, there's some need for this. And the need for this is about, people need to learn. Like, I needed to learn. Like, I had to listen to people. Like, I listen to people and, people who knew more and still do, right? There's things that people know more than I do. And so when I see something, if I watched other truthers, which I don't, but when I see certainly CNN and these other people, I think I have a unique perspective and something that needs to be said about finding the divinity within you. So that's, my justification for sitting here and, talking about my opinion about all these things, that I feel like I have some insight. And really it comes down to, do other people feel the same way, right? Do other people feel like you have some insight, and are you serving, the greater good by talking about things? You can make money at it, but are you actually doing something? Are you adding, is it something, at least for me, is it my content adding to the world? Is it making the world a better place? And that's something you have to think about from time to time, right? And so, I got a comment the other day. Let me see if I can still have it up here. I don't know if I deleted it already. It's from a while ago if I did. Here it is, I think. I don't know. It's not up here. Oh, here it is. And so this person wrote this long comment here. And they were talking about me, my incongruity between my spiritual cleaning that I do and then diving into the beast. And, I said, you're welcome, because I have to do this for you all. Like, I don't give a shit about this stuff, right? Amongst other reasons. But there's a part where the person says this: I tried making videos, and in the end, I felt was counterintuitive to everything that brought me joy and true meaning in my life. YouTube is a machine that grinds people up and as a little dystopian cat video for flavor, then drops you into the furnace for energy to keep the YouTube Google system going. So that's just a bullshit take. YouTube and all these platforms are a vehicle for you to verbalize your thoughts. This is where you display what you creative content, or what you think, or what whatever's going on inside of you, whether it be pictures or even a cat video. And mostly it's like you want other people to watch you. I mean, this is the whole reality TV situation. They have this goofy saying on like these shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. We watched that the farm version Even in Australia, they say this. There's these farmers in Australia. This Farmer Wants a Wife show. That's a couple of seasons in America. My wife and I like this show. You know, we laugh and joke and, you know, mock the people, but it's a little bit better. We could never sit through The Bachelor. But they say this line, I hope that person's here for the right reason, or I'm here for the right reason. And that's always bullshit, because the reason they're there is because they want to be on TV. Because the right reason is to find love. And it's a dysfunctional system where you're one person dating 20 other people. You never find love that way. It's the worst way possible. That you would go randomly picked people. The Farmer Wants a Wife show, they show these women who volunteer for the show. They give them the choice of these different farmers and they pick one. So there's some level of that. You know, it's like internet dating, which is not another flawed system, right? And so to think that you're going to find your spouse out of 25 random people who show up and you're going to meet one of them while stating the other ones in this competitive, putting it all on TV, which adds to, the grossness of the thing. And so the real reason they're all on there is they want to be on TV. I mean, they might want to also find love. And so, there's just this need that people have to be heard. And that's why they have Facebook profiles. You want people to like your pictures or, to agree with what you think about. And when you verbalize your thoughts, you put your thoughts out there, you're looking for validation. And sometimes you get torn to pieces, right? But this person said that they were too good for YouTube, that they realized they were above it. Yet you're commenting on my video on YouTube and giving your opinion about me, which is completely off base, right? Like your take sucks, and you're still doing it. So what's the real reason you stopped making videos? Nobody watched them, right? Or people told you sucked and your takes were stupid. Whatever it is, probably it was nobody watched them, and or maybe a few comments were there where people like, oh, you suck. And so you quit, because you thought I'm just above this. These people don't value my opinions, right? So that's what this comes down to. And so all these people are doing the same thing. And so for Don Lemons to come out and say, oh, I don't revel in these people's demise. Well, that's not true. And one, and two, you're free from the shackles of mainstream media. The majority of us would never, bow down to that, because it would be unthinkable to do this job where you couldn't verbalize your own thoughts. I mean, it sucks bad enough as during the censorship years, the really bad ones under Biden, here on YouTube and these other platforms. But now, there's more freedom, or freedom of expression. But being able just to say what you think, and sometimes it's just like a cathartic thing where you have some place to say these things, right? But, it's just silly. He's just he's so transparently clueless about what he really does. Because I think he kind of believes what he's saying, but he doesn't really realize how bad he sucks at it. And out of all these people, he's by far the worst. He's just the stupidest. But it sucks. For all of us, it undeniably sucks. It makes no sense that anybody could watch it. And no matter who you are as a person, you're so constrained, you're so handled. This was that guy, Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks, went on MSNBC, and he got good ratings. And he was getting better ratings than a lot of these other shows because he had built up an internet audience. But they had a conversation with him, which is, you can't say these things. And, just Young Turk shit, not even truther stuff, right? He couldn't say Young Turk shit, so he was limited. And Joy Reid was sort of crossing the line there a little bit with what she was saying, but she had no audience. She had no ratings, and they still kept her going. And so, if you're on mainstream media, you're going to suck. You can't not help but sucking, because if you start saying things, the sponsors are going to speak up, and the whole politically correct, whatever it might be, whatever the governing forces are. And so there's you don't have a choice but to suck, or you lose your job. And so you get a chance to redeem yourself when you go in this arena. And Megyn Kelly hasn't redeemed herself, but at least she's a little bit better than Don Lemon. A little bit. Tucker Carlson, a little bit better. Don Lemon is still doing the same CNN bullshit. He's just doing it here, right? Some bug crawling on my bed here. To take care of it. But to actually, to make it into this, I don't know why you call it a club, where this level of consciousness, you just have to learn to be authentic and remove yourself from the opinions of your indoctrination, right? And the sides and the demographics you are supposedly, that you identify with. And that's very hard to do. But you at least have to start thinking for yourself a little bit. And Don Lemon, I don't think he's capable of that kind of thought. And so he just stumbles around imitating people. Now he's just imitating, this thing where you screw people over by taking clips of them saying things and you define them by those clips and you mock them. Like, this is the world he's entered, but he's not equipped for this thing. So let's watch this piece here.
Did this. Watch.
Santa Claus should not be a white man anymore. And when I saw this headline, I kind of laughed and I said, oh, this is so ridiculous. Yet another person claiming it's racist to have a white Santa, And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa. But, Santa is what he is, and just so you know, we're just debating this because someone wrote about it, kids.
So, this must be from 10 or 15 years ago. So this is, Megyn Kelly has redefined herself. She'd like to redefine herself as an independent journalist on the internet. I showed you this clip with her and Tucker Carlson. And, they're just parasiting off of stuff that we built. There's some level of, whatever they're doing, but they're still in the right-left paradigm. They're still right-wing. They're still Trump. They're Trumpers now. And so, this is all the way back. She was in Fox. She left Fox and went to NBC, and then now she's doing her own thing, right? So this is from a long time ago. He's really, going to the bottom of the barrel to try to prove her point that she's racist. But so far, this isn't racist. It's just Fox News bullshit, right? It's this is not this isn't worth talking about. If one person says we should have a black Santa, somebody named Aisha Harris, do you know who that is? Why are they talking about this, right? It's just somebody's opinion. And Fox News is, trying to make this whole idea that the white culture is being eroded. Well, because Aisha Harris said we should have a black Santa. Who gives a shit, right? The whole thing is a nothing sandwich.
Okay, I wanted to get that straight. But Jedediah, when I read the piece, the author seems to have, she's African-American, and she seems to have real pain at having grown up with this image of a white Santa, and she speaks about it kind of honestly, saying, I didn't really understand why that had to be.
As women, we all know women like Megyn.
Yeah, she wants Santa to be inclusive, and I had the same reaction. Initially, I was thinking, oh, this is more politically correct nonsense. This is hypersensitivity.
Okay, let's move on to the end of this thing.
All birds feel welcome.
Kids
Monica,
like penguins.
Okay, so I've given, her name is Aisha Harris. I've given her her due on where she was going with it. But just because it makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change. Jesus was a white man too, but it's like.
Look at him. Look at Don Lemon's. That's what.
He was a historical figure. I mean, that's a verifiable fact, as is Santa. I just want the kids watching to know that. Yes. But my point is, how do you just revise it?
Santa was originally from Turkey, so neither Jesus or Santa were white people like these people are. Which, maybe Don Lemon has an opinion on that, maybe he doesn't, who knows? Obviously, he has an opinion on it. But it's not a good one. It's just like somebody else's opinion that he doesn't understand.
In the middle of the legacy of the story and change Santa from white to black.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
Lord have mercy. Now, let alone the Santa thing, but the most egregious thing was that supposedly from a right-wing Christian person that Jesus was white. Jesus was not white. And by the way, if you want to read about Jesus not being white, why don't you go and read my book?
Okay. We'll find out about Jesus from Don Lemon's book. All right, this is
Megyn Kelly. And certainly Santa Claus was not white at my house. Now, what about yours? Santa Claus wasn't white at my Asian friends' homes either. Nor my
Yeah, okay, let's move on. That's the last piece here. So there's this one.
advice.
I searched for a way to respond appropriately, and I called on my 10 years as a litigator in addition to my now 20 as a journalist, and I think I found the perfect phrase, go fuck yourselves.
So let me just say to Megyn Kelly, in my 30-some years as a journalist and my 50-some years as a person of color, go fuck yourself. Okay?
Boom, and then drop the cup here. So that was Don Lemon's original response, and then he had this other. We saw the other one afterwards. This was just great, shitty content and just cluelessness on his part. And Megyn Kelly sucks. It's undefinable. Like it's not undebatable that she sucks. Like she's, like she's reinventing herself. Like Don Lemon's trying to reinvent himself, but not really reinventing themselves, right? Not changing internally who they are. Just showing you more of who they are, which is bad opinions and poor takes and an inability to navigate the world and shilling and making shit up because you have no integrity because you sold out to CNN and Fox and NBC. Her selling out and have to apologize for her take and then coming out and say, well, I'm free from all that bullshit. Now I can just be who I am. Well, you already sold out, right? That's the problem with all these Hollywood celebrities that become truthers, all these journalists that pretend to become truthers, like all these people that do this, they sold out once, right? They shilled for a long period of time. I was watching like mainstream news, I think, and Ted Danson came on, and he was doing some kind of commercial. Like I fast forward through commercials, but sometimes I turn on something like either ESPN or the news, and I do my exercises. And when I'm doing the exercises, sometimes commercials come on, right? So I get stuck with the commercial. And Ted Danson was shilling for something, some medicine or whatever. I went to this job interview that was really a Ponzi scheme. I talk about this occasionally. And it was it was like, do you love sports? Well, this is a job for you. I was like, oh, I got to see what this is. And I went in, and there was this, it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I was having trouble finding a job. So I was looking through the want ads every day. I was bored. I didn't have internet, and I was just, didn't know anybody. I was just this thing. And I eventually found a job in Los Alamos. But during this time, I was just, looking to do anything because I was, I couldn't find, anything to do or anything to occupy my time. And so I thought I'd go in and see what this thing was all about. I knew it was something scammy. And they had taken this storage unit that was like in this industrial build area, and they had turned it into, they painted the walls black to make it look elegant and put like artsy fartsy lighting on the sides with little tiny pictures, like the kind of shit you could pack everything up in the office in about 10 minutes and hit the road if like the law was coming down and investigating your Ponzi scheme. And there's this guy who called himself Rhino Inc. And he was this guy who they showed a film of him, and he had these yachts and these Lamborghinis, and he's saying, this is my documentation of my financial success, right? And if you come in on my business and you invest as a manager, which costs you $5,000, you can be as successful as I am. And he rolls out Ted fucking Danson in this movie. And it was a clear Ponzi scheme, and Ted Danson was willing to sell himself whatever money this guy gave him. This guy was making money across the nation running these Ponzi schemes, setting up these offices, and you're showing all these people, like, all these people with, guys with, like, young, like, strippers on either arm, these things, jumping in the pool and going to these, they're like in the Caribbean or something. Some woman who used to be a teacher, and now she's, dating some guy 10 years older than her, and she's living a good life and driving a Lamborghini, this kind of stuff. And so, this is what they do when you're a shill. Like once you're a shill, you're kind of always a shill, right? Like once you've tasted, you've eaten the mainstream, whatever it might be. And most of these people have been canceled, and they've been thrown aside. They've been like, oh, we don't want you anymore. And then they become truthers, right? Like someone like Isaac Cappy and these other people. all these people have been fired from their jobs. They really wanted to be on MSNBC and Fox. They wanted to be a part of the whole network thing. They enjoyed all of it, the celebrity, all of the things that went with it. And then they get fired, and then they're like, "Oh, they wouldn't allow me to say what I wanted to say." Yeah, but that's not why you left. You didn't leave because of that. Like, you didn't leave, maybe Tucker Carlson to some extent, and he already had a bigger following that he saw like was potential, but they fired him anyways, right? For some of these things that he was saying. And so you can make a little bit of a case for him, but he's still some right-wing shilling for Trump, still lying about Trump's fake assassination attempt, still covering up, still saying Elon Musk is a normal person as they pilfer the whole, what's left of the American wealth. And so, these guys are all shills. They're all horrible, they've already sold their souls to the devil, right? And now they're trying to reinvent themselves in something that many of us organically created. And, maybe they've taken a step in the right direction, so you give them a minimal credit, but they're still shills at the heart of it. And they're all shills. Like, they're not right-wing shills, they're not liberal shills, they're not female shills, they're not black shills, they're just shills, right? Like, once a shill, always a shill. It separates you from all your other demographics. You're willing to lie to the American people about shit that's bad for them for money, right? You allow yourself to, you'll sell your opinion out. Like, you can't be taken seriously because, Megyn Kelly apologizing for that and having that fake audience applaud her. I mean, that was horrendous. Like, it was hard to watch, right? Because it's so fake. It's so, you're lying to your audience. Once you lie to your audience and you do it for money, and it's something bad. Like, it would be one thing if you were shilling something that was good. I mean, if you were shilling something that, could help people, and that, that is whatever that is. But if you're lying to people about something that's bad for them, and that's what all these people do, then, there's nowhere to go for it. You can't redeem yourself. You've broken your trust with your audience. So this was recommended to me this morning, just to wrap this one up here.
Stand up to the administration and stand behind.
Wait, let's start from the beginning.
I saw the news that the White House is indefinitely banning the Associated Press, the AP, because they won't call the Gulf of Mexico, that's what it is.
No, it's not anymore. It's legally called the Gulf of America. You could change it back in 4 years, but for the next 4 years, it's going to be called the Gulf of America, and it probably isn't going to go back because it's a petty thing, and the Democrats, if it's a Democrats elected in 4 years, so it's the Gulf of America. That's legally what it is now. It's stupid. You can call it stupid, but it's not the Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of America. I think all the press needs to stand up to the administration and stand behind the Associated Press, especially the conservative folks like Fox News and the like, because back when something similar like this happened during Barack Obama's administration,
Barack Obama didn't allow some people into the press room. Like, I kind of vaguely remember this.
Everybody, the liberal media, if you want to call it that, every media organization stood up for Fox News. And I think Fox News and the conservative folks...
Yeah, but that time's... Like, you're making it sound like that would happen again. And it wouldn't. If Joe Biden... Joe Biden censored fucking people. I mean, he was much worse than whatever Obama or Trump is doing. He was censoring people. Like, they prevented news stories from being covered. And he was, censoring people on social media. And you guys were encouraging it because you were getting your ass kicked by social media. And it would not do that now. You would not do what happened under Barack Obama because things are so divisive now. And again, like this fake thing with him and his jacket and his dogs and this guy in the camera, like he's a man on the street.
Need to take the lead on this and stand up for the Associated Press because this is some bullshit.
Boom. And this is called, let's call a spade a spade. It's one of his favorite things to say. It's bullshit. So Don Lemon's, ladies and gentlemen. So I just want to wrap this one up here. I was going to cover some more stuff, but I got a Chris Cuomo thing with somebody. I don't know. It's not about Chris Cuomo. It's somebody he's interviewed. I forget. Somebody. And then there's a couple of funny memes and some other things. But this is about, what we do, what I do here, and what a lot of people do. Whether you're a truther or not. And it's you verbalizing your opinion, like I said, right? You know, you see this with they have in the CNN and MSNBC and Fox, they have 5 people, you know, sitting around a table, 6 people, something, 4 people, and they're the experts. And sometimes, you know, they'll have a lawyer and they'll have a publicist, you know, they'll have different people talking about different levels of the story. But sometimes they're all just talking about what they think happened. Like the election night, there's 8 people sitting there all telling why Trump won and what it says about America. And, you know, they all have different opinions. You know, some of this is considered debating. There's a level of competition here. But, you know, I've given my position about this. It's just meaningless words, you know, words that don't mean anything. I mean, they might mean something. They're put together. We're not just monkeys typing on a typewriter randomly. But, you know, their effect on society is minimal. And my biggest positions here, you know, in terms of anything that has value, number one, finding the divinity within you, which is unbelievably hard thing to sell. You know, not that I'm selling it because it's not mine to sell, right? It's, you know, your relationship with your soul, but it's unbelievably hard for people to even think in those terms. That divinity is within you. You know, get rid of your religious indoctrination and your materialistic orientation, and form, you know, in part, some relationship with the soul and God within you. Just put some effort into there. And, you know, there's the gratefulness meditation we have is an easy way to do that. And, you know, I think out of the millions of people who have watched my videos, you know, I have something like 120 million total views on this channel, and then millions of others on my other channel, and some thousands on even, you know, I've had all these channels. And then all the videos I've deleted, you know, where all the view counts don't, you know, whatever it is. And so there's been some millions of people who've watched my content. And, you know, the ones who watched it more than others, some people just came from one video and left, you know, whatever. But let's just say between 1 and 5 million people have heard me talk about divinity within you. And out of those 5 million people, maybe 2,000 people tried the meditation. Maybe 10,000 of people thought about that and thought, hey, that'd be nice if I could cultivate a relationship with my soul, right? It's a hard thing to sell. The other thing is the system can't be fixed, and that you have to start preparing yourself for what's next. And those two things are hard sells, right? You know, like people don't want either of those two things, and, you know, it's definitely not, I'm not making money off of it. I'm not, you know, being paid to say those things. Those are the things that I care about, the things that, you know, differentiate my channel from other channels, my point of view, these two things. And the reason for my existence here, because very few people can do what I do and talk about those two things in an entertaining way, right? You know, I'd like people to laugh at my jokes, you know, but I don't hear them. I don't need to hear them. At least I think they're funny, and, you know, some people do. And, you know, that's just people's taste in humor. And so, you know, all the other stuff is me just talking about things people are interested in, so that these two primary messages can get across to the people who listen to my videos, because it's my duty to pass on these things to other people, right? It's just, you know, and because, you know, this is a job, and I mean, there's other factors here. But, you know, I feel like my responsibility when I first started the Sajmark system was to tell other people about it. And what they did with it was up to them. And I love that now more than ever. You know, in the beginning, I was, you know, more disappointed by people's reaction. I was hoping they would gravitate it to, you know, and more people gravitate to it, but it's just not the case. People just don't want to hear this. They don't want to do anything about it. They're not interested. Maybe they don't have it in them to do it. It doesn't matter. It's not up to me. My job is just to put the information out there. You know, and in this stuff, with all the critiques you get from people who comment, because a lot of this is comment driven as well, you know, in terms of like this, the part of this is that's comments. There's comments, and then there's content, and there's people putting out their opinions, people critiquing things one way or another, giving their opinions. And, you know, a lot of it is like, my opinion's better than yours. Like, it's what's inside me is better than what's inside you. Like, that's just a lot of what life is about now on the internet. What I have inside me is better than what you have inside you. Like, that's, you know, how people evaluate I mean, that's what they're saying, even if they're not aware that they're saying it. Oh, your ideas suck. Look at my ideas. Here, look at my ideas. Everyone listen to my ideas. You want to listen to those ideas, right? You know, when you start this kind of thing, you sit there and you come up with these ideas, that you feel like you're compelled to say something, and you put it out on Facebook or something, just a small group of people, maybe your friends, maybe it's something controversial. As truthers, everyone does this. And when it's truthers, it's going to be more controversial. And then you're like waiting for people to respond. And you're like, how are they going to respond? And, somebody says something mean to you and just labels you, oh, you're just one of those crazy conspiracy theorists or something like that, right? And then you get hurt. And, there's just this process you go through. You're like, well, I'm not going to say what's inside me anymore because people are going to tell me I'm a worthless piece of shit. And then you have to go through a process when you do this, as a job where you're like, I don't care what people say. Why do I really care what they say? Like, I don't listen. Like, I don't want to listen to these people. Like, if they were talking to me, I would tune them out, right? Like, I don't respect what they have inside them. And I don't, what they're saying to me has no value. Because when I listen to them, I'm like, I feel like, I feel like death, right? They make me feel bad by what they're spewing out of their ghoul hold, right? If you can't mock it, which would make it fun, then it's about you. If you're just listening to them, you wouldn't listen to them. Then they're talking about you, and you're like, oh, wow, they're talking about me. And then all of a sudden you tune in. I want to hear what they say about everything else. They're full of shit. But when they're talking about me, I just don't want to hear it. I got to, and then all of a sudden you change their opinion of them if they say something good, right? And so, people's opinions only matter to you if you put some value on them. And if it's somebody you respect and somebody who has something to offer, that's the problem why people get so mad at me, because they listen to me and they're like, wow, this guy really gets it. And they like what I have to say. Anybody, if you're a fan of somebody's stuff and then they're like, they're a Trumper and they like listen to everything you say and they're like, oh man, that's so great. And then you say something negative about Trump and now it really hurts because they have, in their own mind, they value your opinion and you've said something that they can't hear. And so that's like a big part of what happens, right? But in the process of, developing your capacity to go and say what's inside of you, you have to develop like defense mechanisms to the vitriol and the hate that's out there. But you also go through stages, especially as truthers, but any of these people that are on the internet, even someone like Don Lemons. And so when you have your original opinion, it comes from like your parents. It comes from, your upbringing, your indoctrination, your religion, your indoctrination, your school indoctrination, listening to other people, and then the groups you start identifying with, and people in your life who you don't want to disagree with. Like you have a girlfriend or boyfriend who's, they'll get upset if you disagree with them, or you don't want to break up with them. So you maybe you don't care about politics, or you just, they're so passionate about it. You have to support. You want to support them, so you just agree with them. Whatever your reasoning is for taking, you're having your opinions about things, but mostly you're just regurgitating other different blocks of points of view. And you're completely oblivious about it. Like you've never even thought about it. And you understand this when you start to question things. And then you talk to somebody who's a sheeple. And you now are closer to the truth. You have like, at least you understand the official stories, kind of bullshit. And you're kind of piecing together what your point of view, your lens, you're recreating your new lens in which you view the world. And then you start talking to a sheeple, and they just start regurgitating shit they heard straight out of the mainstream media. There's this clip I showed you, Don Lemon. He's doing the man on the street thing. He's talking to another African American guy, who's obviously like a little bit of a truther. And Don Lemon is talking about I forget what he's talking about. Oh, he's saying is it President Elon Musk or is it President Trump? This was a narrative they were running with to sort of divide Trump and Elon Musk and this whole thing. It didn't stick. And the guy said, well, who's saying that? And Don Lemon starts going, MSNBC, Axios, these just quoting mainstream sources. Just like what he said, Google says that a woman in her prime, like fucking, really? Is that what they say? So Google, like this game search engine. And so, they just quote things off the mainstream media. There was a time, maybe this is 3-4 years ago, and somebody, this is, I'm doing the Sajmark meditation. This guy Dodgy changed the name or created a parasitic holding company where he could glom onto the properties. I mean, that's what appears to have happened. He was legitimately appointed the successor, but these were collective ashrams. I mean, there's billions of dollars in ashrams I would say, over $1 billion in ashrams, hundreds of millions. I mean, it's a fortune in, rupees, hundreds of millions of rupees, right? Like billions of rupees. Rupees are like 60 to 1, 60 rupees to $1. But he created this thing called heartfulness. It took me a while to understand that he had fallen. He was a spiritual person, like I knew him before. And he had some sincerity, like everybody, every saint, every higher developed soul goes through these, where they're tested. And he failed the test. And it took me a while to figure out he failed the test. But the evidence was starting to pour in, right? But I was telling people about heartfulness. And I think somebody showed up that was my ex-wife's new man, because he showed up again. And so I'm pretty sure that it was him, but it could have been somebody else. But somebody came in and said, Paul Romano's not a good example of heartfulness, like just stupidity. Because, anybody who was listening to me talk about this system of meditation, if you hear any kind of a doubt in the person, like it just drives people away. If you hear there's infighting and drama. And this person wrote these long comments about how I just wasn't, I was a bad person and all this shit. And then he said, or she said, but I think it was this guy, he said, this is what the New York Times says. He starts getting into my content, and he starts quoting mainstream media. And without any awareness that, the people who listen to me also share this belief that New York Times is full of shit, right? Just totally unaware of what other people think. Not even aware of, these are just crazy conspiracy theorists. Let's just shut the door on them. There's people in the organization when it became an NGO, and I was telling them, Babaji, the second master of the system, was invited to join the UN, and he said no. He said he said they're trying to create world peace through weapons. Like he mocked them in a way that he wasn't a person that would do that. He was above he was much more refined, but he clearly didn't want anything to do with the UN because he wrote a letter. That was, if you read the letter, you'd be like, yeah, this guy doesn't think the UN has respect for them. And he said that, that prayer and meditation were the only way to, inner peace was the only way to world peace, which is the Sajmarg, philosophy. And these guys joined as an NGO, Charji, the third master system. He was dying. He had a couple types of cancer, and he had been in a coma for a while, and he was physically weak. He was, a few years away from dying. And they joined as an NGO. So this was a shared organization. Like we all have somewhat a say. The master of the system has, most or all the power, but everybody has contributed to building the organization. And I wrote to Charji about it. He said, I didn't have anything to do with this. Why don't you talk to this guy? Which meant it wasn't about the master decided this and they all decided to do it. They went off on their own and joined the UN like a bunch of bozos, right? And I later pieced together the story. But I presented a mountain of evidence why the UN is not a good organization. And they couldn't get it. They never understood my point of view. They just can't do it. Like they weren't capable of doing it. And so, many of us have experienced this because we've risen to a higher level of consciousness where we understand the mainstream story because we were once indoctrinated ourselves. We understand the point of view of these people, but they don't understand ours because they're at a lower level of consciousness, right? And then as you become a truther, there's all these narratives that are put out there, all these talking points, and a lot of it's just disinformation and bullshit. And many people just stop there and grab onto all those points of view. You see this with a lot of truthers. But they don't know what they're talking about. They just have taken other people's research, other people's opinions. They heard something here, they heard something there, and they're just repeating it. They're doing the same thing as the sheeple. They just think they're better than the sheeple. And so as you evolve through it, and then you have to start thinking about, why am I doing this? Like, why am I looking into this? Why does it matter? Because that's something that almost nobody does. Because, you've woken up, and now you want everyone else to wake up. Right? Why is that? Like, why does everyone else need to wake up the way you woke up? Like this whole idea of InfoWars with Alex Jones, it doesn't work. We know that. People don't wake up in the same way, and some people don't wake up at all. And the majority of people have a slight awakening, and they think they've woken up completely. And this is where everyone thinks that wherever they are, wherever you are on this conspiracy theory, truth or spectrum, is the perfect place, right? Anybody who's less awake than you is either a shill or a sheeple. Any anybody who's more, more extreme than you is crazy, right? So there's no sense of it, right? There's no, like, wherever you are is just the perfect place. There's no sense that you might have farther to go, or you might be, still asleep. And most people are just still asleep and they think they're awake. So, if you're doing this every day and you tune into truthers every day and you listen to this, none of this stuff matters because we're not going to change any of it. When you realize you can't change what's going to happen, then why are you spending your time like this? Well, if it's entertaining, sure. Then admit because you're entertained, or, sometimes you need a little, camaraderie or something like that, like, whatever it is that you're getting because you're constantly being told you're wrong by the mainstream system. And you need to hear it over and over again. You need to have somebody sort of break the spell or interpret things because things that you can't see or whatever. And so there's some value in that. Like you're still developing, but just being honest about why you're there because, if it's making you feel bad, which it always inevitably does because it's depressing, if you're hoping that it'll change, but it won't, some of it's just like, what's the point? Like you got to ask these questions. Every once in a while you have to evaluate how you're using your time and, what you're doing. I can't repeat the same videos I did 10 years ago. Like I couldn't remake those videos because I've evolved in what I'm able to do and what I, where my focus is on and what I can, tolerate doing. And some of the things I just couldn't do anymore because, they've been wrecked by the truth community or they just, I just don't believe the same things I used to believe. And I don't care about the things that I cared about before. And so it becomes about something else. So anyways, these are just things for people to know. And these people are coming in fresh from, success at MSNBC or CNN. They're starting off in a worse position, right? Like in the Sajmark system, they talked about the masters of the system, I'm not sure which one, talked about how it was better to get a fresh piece of wood that you could carve into something, it's a blank sheet of paper, that you can carve without having been already made into something, right? Like a chair. Like it's hard to carve something new out of a chair as opposed to just a block of wood, right? Where you could make something from scratch when the medium has not been molded into something. It's really hard to change things, and it's really hard for people to change. That's just the reality. And so starting from scratch is desirable. And, most of us don't have that opportunity because of the indoctrination and prejudice that we already have that have been put onto us by our system and our lives and our culture and a society. And so it takes some work and a strong-willed person to continuously change and really understand what's going on and not pick up the rope and get bogged down in all the bullshit because it's all just bullshit, most of it, right? Most of it has almost no value. I mean, all these words that are being said in the media and, all these things, right? What I'm talking about, there's a story. Something is being done. And, if there's some need to prevent something or to expose something so somebody doesn't get away with doing something underhanded, sure, maybe sometimes that has value. There's the California wildfires, and then you watch them. You're not in California, and you're like, well, how does it affect me? And then you have all the opinions that people post and all the, their theories about what's really going on, all these things. And then just move on to something else, right? And nothing really changes, nothing really matters. It's just, sensationalistic crap that's on the internet that people gravitate to because they have to fill their time with something. And so there has to be something more. Like people should want something more. Like there has to be something like an energy exchange at least. You're talking to, when you're listening to someone that's on a higher level, at least there's an energy exchange that can help open up your consciousness. Like they're modeling and you're getting experience to. This is all the Sajmark method that when you spend time around a more spiritually evolved person, i.e. the master of the system, and you feel the energy and you feel the condition and that person is an example of what you can achieve. It's one of the unique parts about the system where you're not worshiping the person, you're learning to become like them, to achieve the same thing that they have achieved. And there's nothing better than being around somebody who's on a higher level that can help you pull you up to a higher level. But if you're just watching people who have a lower level all the time, it's pulling you down. Even though they're rich and famous and powerful, these people are on a lower level than most of us. They just are. In terms of their spiritual evolution, they're in the material world, they're more successful. So it appears that they're given more status, they're given more, whatever, privileges, they're praised more, they have better resumes. But on a spiritual level, they're on a lower level. And you can see it. You should be able to see it. And it's not good to watch them, because even though they are famous and they're powerful people, doesn't make them more evolved. It makes them, oftentimes they're less evolved. Because that's early stage in your existence where you have to have money and power before you realize that that's not why we're here. And when you're on a very low stage of existence, your first life as a human, something like that, you coming from an animalistic perspective, you're usually a poor person that's not very evolved and kind of stupid, unevolved, incapable of abstract thought. And you look at these people who are rich and powerful, and you want to evolve to be what they are, like kings and queens, and you're like, oh man, maybe someday I could be them. And then you have a future life where you get that, right, where you become rich and famous and you have power and you have these things, and you're even more miserable, and your soul realizes, you're through this process, the subtle bodies that create your body, your spiritual essence that manifests your body, realizes, okay, this is not why I'm here. And then you look for more, you get educated, and you're like, well, that's good, but that's not also why I'm here. And then eventually you come to your soul and connecting with your soul and figuring out your true purpose. And people who have done that are farther along, often many lifetimes farther along than the people who are in positions of power, and people who gravitate to need some sort of external validation that never makes you happy, and it really isn't the point of your existence. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. This Paul Romano definitely pointing to the apocalypse. In the ascension, everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.